Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to tonight's show. I'm gonna have to update the title to this because it's not Irish Demon versus Rad Vlad. It's actually PhD Tony versus Rad Vlad. We pulled the old switcheroo on Rad Vlad tonight. So we told him it was gonna be Irish Demon, and then we lied to him intentionally just to get him on here. And now we're telling him the truth, and now he's fucking scared shitless. But of course, I'm just kidding. Rad Vlad, how you doing tonight, sir?
Good, man. I'm here. I showed up. Irish Demon can't say the same for him. He, these guys talk tough, but the night before they start thinking what it's going to be like when they face me, and then they chicken out.
I'll
You
be
know,
sure
he
to I'll be sure to
he,
let him hear you say this.
he couldn't perform when it was time to perform. He couldn't do it. He couldn't perform when it was time. The ED kicked in. Tony shows
Well,
up. Man, you can't say the same for this Irish Demon guy, man. I was looking forward to just giving him a good bashing.
Oh,
He really he had
to
it
to
coming.
be to be to be fair to Demon, he didn't show up last night for the show he was supposed to do. We do a talk show together, and he didn't show up for that either. He says he's got really bad hay fever. We think it's just an excuse. We think he's scared. We think he's scared of you, Vlad. We were saying so last night.
Hay
He was
fever.
just putting. Yes, hay fever.
Is he sneezing a little? Hey, I've showed up to fight trained thoroughbred killers sick with
Hmm.
a yellow phlegm. I show up to fight. Physical,
Yeah.
like a physical fight, a dangerous situation. This is nothing.
Hmm. Yeah.
He's chickening out on a
Yeah.
little fun little talk, man.
I
well,
think he. Well,
He did the right thing though, man. He came to his senses and he chickened out, man.
hey, Vlad, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where they can find you on YouTube?
I've got a channel, Rad Vlad, mostly flat Earth, some Christian stuff, Orthodox Christian theology, and um, I don't know. I'm sure. It's throwing me off that I'm not going at it with the other guy, but it is what it is. So that's about it.
All right, good deal. And the opponent you will be facing tonight is our very own PhD Tony. How you doing tonight, Tony?
I'm well, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, actually.
Um, and how are you doing, Vlad? I noticed you had a bit of a cough. How are you holding up there, man?
It's flu season. I got a little cough. But I don't
Okay.
let that stop me like the other guy. I show
Yeah.
up. You know.
Okay. Yep. That's fair enough. But do take care of yourself.
Yeah.
All right, Tony,
You
you
know,
want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where they can find you on YouTube?
So I'm a geophysicist. I'm transitioning between positions at the moment. I'll be working on satellite gravity data in the coming year. And I have my own channel, PhD Tony, where I do present content, and I'll have a live stream this Friday morning my time, Thursday afternoon your time, with Professor Phil Bell, and hopefully at some stage we'll get Team back on.
Yeah, I want to come
Um,
back on. I want to come back on. So even if we gotta, I'll do my best to be there Thursday. If you'll just give me a reminder more than an hour in advance, like maybe a
okay.
12-hour reminder, so that way I know to be
All
ready
right.
for it, and I'll be there.
Yep. Okay. No problem.
All right. Well, good deal. Tonight's format, of course, will be going presenting evidence for each other's sides, and then I'll give you guys a time, probably a good amount of time, about an hour to an hour and a half to, have an open conversation about the evidence presented. Now, Vlad, because the position that we hold is obviously the objective truth, we'll allow Vlad to either present first or have you present first. Vlad, which one would you rather do? Would you rather present first or would you rather have Tony present first?
Let Tony go.
Tony, you okay with that?
Yeah, catching me a bit by surprise, but fortunately I do have a presentation. Let me just get it up for you.
Yeah, I want to say
Um,
thank you, Tony, for filling in for Demon. This was very last minute. Literally, we were supposed to start at 6:30, and I believe I messaged you after 6:30 to ask if you would be willing to come on and take on this. And you said yeah. So
yeah,
thank you very, very much for doing that. And I appreciate
uh,
the short notice. But let me turn it over to you, and you have about 10 to 15 minutes to say what you need to say. Okay, here we go.
okay. So the first thing that I'd bring up, I'm going to send team a video in a second that hopefully we can use to illustrate my points. But the big thing is distances. So distances, all of the distances that we can measure are consistent with the with the sorry, just reading some comments in the background while I'm sending team this link. But uh, all of the distances that we can measure objectively um, agree with the distances as estimated on a spherical Earth. So if you've got 2 points whose latitude and longitude you know, I can tell you what the distance is. I can tell you without any measurements. You just give me the latitude and longitude, I'll tell you what the distance is. And it doesn't matter how you get from point A to point B. If you take a car, if you take a train, if you take a plane, if you have a seismic wave, if you have a sound wave, if you have a tsunami, if you have a weather system, doesn't matter what you use to get from point A to point B on Earth's surface, you always find that the time it takes to get there at that speed is in agreement with the spherical distance formulation, and it just doesn't work any other way. There's no way that can happen on a flat Earth, and we've been through this before. But the time it takes for seismic waves, excuse me, to get from one side of Antarctica to the other, or one side of the Earth to the other, is always in agreement with the spherical Earth's formulation, but it has nothing to do with there's no evidence of an edge around Antarctica or anything like that. Seismic waves can travel from one side of Antarctica to the other very, very quickly. They don't travel through the middle of the disk or anything like that. So that would be my first evidence. So I sent you the link to the video. If you can bring that up.
Yeah, which one do you want me to bring up?
Yeah.
The first link you sent me or the second one?
No, the second one.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Just mute it and move to the 9-second part and pause.
Okay, it's at 10 seconds and it's ready to go.
Okay, so sorry, 9 minutes. 9
9
minutes.
minutes. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so this is what's coming up in the on screen right there is the formula for the distance between 2 points on a sphere, provided I know their latitude and their longitude. And I could observe latitude and longitude. I can work them out from observations. As long as I know those two things, I can tell you what the distance is. And this calculation is used to calculate how much fuel planes need, how much fuel or food ships need, and that sort of thing. And it's always worked. It's not just this new thing. If you go to 10 and a half minutes, in the age of sail, back when people were sailing around the world, they needed to know how much food and water they required in order to make a journey. And it's a little known aspect of the mutiny on the Bounty that Captain Bligh had to navigate about 6,000 kilometers, almost 7,000 kilometers, without making landfall. Excuse me again. Because the first time he made landfall, some of his crew got killed by the natives, and so they decided, screw that. Again, sorry. We're not going to make landfall again. We're going to sail to the port where we need to be, and we're going to do it without landing on any islands. In order to do that, he had to be able to calculate how far he was going to travel, what direction he needed to go to get there, and how long it was going to take him. And he got it exactly right. And he was trapped in a little rowboat with not much water, with not much food. If his calculations were off, everybody would have just starved or died of thirst. And and we do this every day. Every time there's an international flight, it's using spherical trigonometry to get from one side to the other. If you go to 11 minutes and 40 seconds, here we're seeing, the Earth mapped in two different ways. One above an earthquake, and you can see the seismic energy spreading out in a circle. That earthquake was at Macquarie Rise, which is right near Antarctica, and you can see that in the one on the left, which is azimuthal above the earthquake, it's spreading out radially. It's just spreading out like ripples on a pond. If you look at the one on the right, which is the only map projection only flat Earth map projection that gets distance from the North Pole correct, you can see that the energy doesn't make any sense. And indeed, in order to travel that fast is physically impossible. The speed of sound inside a solid is well known. Sound cannot travel that fast enough for seismic waves to get around. And then if you can go to 13 minutes. There's a special type of seismic wave called the Rayleigh wave, which is a type of wave that occurs near the surface. And it has the peculiar property that it goes round the Earth multiple times, that it goes round and round and round. And you can measure it going around. Now, the time it takes to get back is independent of how close it is to Antarctica. If these waves were just bouncing off the edge of the disk, then the repeat time between the first pass of the wave and the reflected wave would depend on how close you are to Antarctica. It's got nothing to do with how close to Antarctica you are. It's your angular distance from the earthquake. That's the key thing. And you see this actually in sound waves as well. So when the big volcano Krakatoa exploded, the sound waves from that went around the Earth 5 times. And again, the repeat time for those for each of those circuits depended on how far it was from Krakatoa, not how close it was to Antarctica or how close it was to the dome or anything else. So basically, all of these physical processes whose velocities we well understand, we can time how long it takes them to get from one point on Earth's surface to another point on Earth's surface. And every time we do it, we get a distance that agrees with the spherical formula. And that includes getting from one side of Antarctica to the other side of Antarctica. And I don't see, there's no, mathematically it is impossible that that can happen on a flat body. The Earth can't be flat. It's a logical impossibility given the observations we have. And anyway, that's about the end of my presentation.
All right, good deal, good deal. Did you catch all that, Vlad? Are you there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you yeah, I can hear you. My bad. Did you catch all that?
I did.
Okay, good deal. Are you ready to present your side? And I think you sent me some emails with some different links. I still have those if you need to reference any link. But all right, it's your time to go. So here you go.
Hold on, but before I get started, one thing. I only see myself. I can't see you guys. That's number one. Number two,
yeah. You can see Tony right here.
I
You
don't
should
see
be able.
Tony. I don't see, all I see is me right now. It's like it's gonna be hard like that. I don't see
Oh,
the every.
okay. Pull up the vmix link, the join link. Stop looking at OBS.
Oh, sheesh, man. Where's the vmix link?
That was the call when you're the call that you're in. Pull the call up. I
Pull the call.
guarantee. Yeah, I think you're looking at OBS right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at OBS. So
Don't look.
okay,
OBS will just show you. You got to go to the call link.
okay. If I minus, there's like the way to minus the screen, like minus or make it bigger. If I minus OBS, can I go back to the call?
Yeah, you don't have to keep OBS like full screen. Just minus the OBS right now.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, I'm still hearing you. So let me go back to the camera. I mean, back to the call.
The call.
Right?
Yeah, back to the call.
All right. All right, hold up. Another thing, PhD Tony's going all flat Earth on me. I thought the debate was going to be a little flat Earth, a little God versus no God.
Oh, Tony can handle himself in that department as well.
Okay.
So feel free to elaborate your position on God versus no God, and Tony will be able to answer those questions when it gets back to the back and forth.
Okie
I
dokie.
will add a point here, which is to say that I consider the shape of the Earth to be irrelevant to whether or not God exists. Okay, God can exist just as well if the Earth is a globe as if the Earth is flat. I don't see the two as connected. Okay, and so my attitude would be that I don't see that the existence of God requires that the earth is flat. I don't see that the earth being a globe requires that God doesn't exist. I don't believe God exists, but that's my personal belief. We can get into that when the discussion comes along.
All right, and Vlad paused. He looks like he disconnected. He may have shut the join screen down. Let's see if we can get him back in.
Okay. I've done that before, so I can. I'm sure people will make some sort of comments about Vlad as a result of that, but I've done it in the past, and my technical incompetence knows no bounds. I think we've all established. Actually, I just froze. Oh no, I'm back.
Okay, well, we'll give Vlad a couple of minutes, man. Tony, how you been, man? Long time. We haven't had you on the channel in a minute, and that's
Yeah.
personally upsetting to me when I don't have you on the channel.
Well, it's nice to be back. Actually, all very good. I mean, I'm actually excited by people like J.L. Warren and Fohammer, and you've got a bunch of really talented people in your community, and giving them the opportunity to sort of present their stuff. I really like where this is headed. So great stuff.
Yeah, I think people you're still, even though I would say you're more of a veteran to this because you've done so many debates and you present such a good argument. But there's a lot of people out there that are really smart that just never get that opportunity. There's nobody hosting those people to come on and get a chance to improve their ability to have a conversation, especially when the conversation is two opposing viewpoints. So that's what that was the whole purpose of all this was to excuse me, was to put us in a position to have these types of conversations. So let me email Vlad and see what he says, because I don't think he may not even know that he's not connected.
He might not. Yeah. But it's there's I haven't seen Clive Wells in the chat today, but there are just so many people around who do a really good job.
Yeah. So when do you have some new material coming out?
So I'm working on a couple of things. I'm going to put up I've been working on this video. it's hard to work up enthusiasm for the flat Earth stuff.
It
I think
is.
this will be. I think this will be my last flat Earth thing. So I'm putting up something on relative density because people still apparently believe that that's a thing, and then I'll be moving on to geochronology because I think young Earth creationism needs some slaps around the head.
Yeah.
They're just being silly.
Yeah. What'd you call it? Coronarism?
Geochronology.
Geochronology, yes. All
Yes.
right. That sounds actually really really exciting, to be honest with you.
That has the potential to be a long series because there are actually so many different techniques that we use to work out how old stuff is.
What if I could set up something like between you and Kent Hovind?
I'd be willing to debate him on any channel other than a young Earth creationist channel. Well, any neutral channel with decent moderation. Yeah, so I'd be up for that. It's not a.
Okay. Back.
All right,
That's better.
Tony, we'll pick this conversation up. All right, Rad Vlad, glad to have you back, man. If you accidentally close the call screen, don't worry. That happens all the time. Or if you ever lose signal and can't see anything moving, just go ahead and refresh the page or rejoin on the link. Either one will work. It'll be open for you. So, okay. Well, Rad Vlad, I guess we're ready to give you your time. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Okay, let me get myself together here. Okay. It says in the scriptures, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. It's very foolish. A person, I just can't comprehend the kind of mind a human being can have that looks at the world around him, the creation, and just think, it just kind of popped up out of nowhere. Here it is, no big deal. It's just here just because. Like, that's very foolish. But a lot of people, they believe that. It goes beyond what I can comprehend. It's someone with any common sense can look at the world and come up with that determination. Another one I like in the scriptures, it says, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse, meaning men and women without an excuse. When you look at the world and the creation, you understand there is God. The creation equals a creator. There's no two ways about it. And stuff didn't build itself. I've got some more things I wrote down. Well, there's another one, team. You can put it up. The picture of Jupiter. You got it?
Just tell me which email or what the email's titled, and I'll bring that one up.
I don't remember. It might say Jupiter rendered on a spherical model.
Okay, hold on. Let me see it. Let me see. Is it the Wikipedia page?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Okay, here you go.
Okay. Just an interesting thing that I noticed about Jupiter, when you look at Jupiter through a telescope grounded on Earth, which is the only way you can see it, the ones that you see supposedly shot from the spaceships they supposedly have flying around space are like cartoons. It's like a computer cartoon. If you look closely, you don't have to look that closely, but you can just see it looks like like a scene out of a Star Wars movie. And sometimes they even show you the spaceship. So it's all like animated. But the funny thing about Jupiter that I noticed is it's supposed to be spherical, and it could be, but those stripes are exactly parallel and facing the Earth. And if what are the chances of that? You know what I'm saying? If you click to some other pictures on that same Wikipedia page, it'll show you like a CGI of Jupiter. Yeah. Keep going. A little more. You can keep. As soon as you see another one, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. A little more. It's kind of a lot of pictures there. Keep going.
That's it. That's the bottom of the page. It's all reference points.
Well, you got to use your imagination. If you look at if you imagine looking at let's say a beach ball was rendered and colored exactly the way we see Jupiter, just go ahead and put it back on that original picture we were looking at of Jupiter. You know, those colors that circle around Jupiter would be at another angle. You would get the sense that they're traveling around the sphere of the planet. You know what I mean? If you're up above it looking down, it would kind of the angle would be different. These are perfectly straight. You know, so it means it's exactly facing the viewer on Earth. So that's just it's kind of like it's almost impossible that it faces us, but it kind of can say we are in the middle. Or you went away from the picture. Go back to the picture. Yeah, yeah, that's good. You know, that's very unlikely. If we live in a random universe of accidents, what are the chances it's exactly facing us head on? And it's always like that. So anyway, that's that. There's another one I sent you. Oh man, that I like. How long do I get to go for here on this intro?
Take your time. As long as it's not too long, I'm going to let you present everything.
Okay, before I get to, I'll go. That one's going to take a minute. So let me get to some of the other ones I have. Okay, a lot of people want to prove. They ask me, prove God, like they want to look at him. Okay, and I will say, prove to me you're thinking of a red apple right now. You can't. It's transcended. Even though it's real, it exists. It's true. It's a true thing that exists in your mind. You see the apple. It's real, but you can't. If I crack your head open, I don't see that apple. It's transcended. There's things that exist that aren't physical that you can look at like under a microscope, like a scientist. So you can't prove to me that you even have thoughts in your mind. But to keep it simple, you can't prove you're thinking of like a blue banana right now. You can't. And I also asked, and scientists, I asked PhD Tony, what's the difference between living meat and dead meat? What's the missing factor? We have an answer. The people who believe in God say the spirit is gone, the soul is gone from the human body or the animal's body. So that what animates that meat is the soul or the spirit. And when that departs, the flesh dies. So I'd like to hear from a scientist, what's the difference between living meat and dead meat? Here's another one. Space is only 60 miles away. Why can't the average Joe go there? Why isn't there a travel, like a space tours agency that provides trips to the average Joe to get at least up to space? It's only 60 miles away. There's, it's too expensive. It's very, there are a lot of excuses. Why is it so hard? 50 years ago, we sent 3 guys to the moon in like a little can. They did loop-de-loops around the moon. While one was doing loops, the other module broke off, landed on Earth. on the moon, and then they spent some time there. And then it flew up, connected again, and they came back to Earth. By the way, they never got to do any test flights. They winged it and got it right the first time. When did they get to practice flying those things in the real environment that's supposed to be space, like with no air? Where did they get to practice flying it? They just kind of winged it the first time and got it right. Like crazy ass complicated mission to the moon, loop de loops, disconnect, reconnect, and come back to Earth. If they could do that 50 years ago, how come there isn't a space tours agency that could get the average Joe with his family up to space and see the ball Earth, or go around the Earth? Let's go around the Earth. End up where we started in a nice big loop. It doesn't exist because it's not possible. Because the free market proves that it's not possible. Because if it was possible, someone would have cashed in on that. A lot of people would go for it. It doesn't have to be that expensive. Why? It's only 60 miles away and you're in space. It's not that far. You can fly to China. It's like thousands of miles away. But you can't go 60 miles up. We can go thousands of miles that way. How do planes and submarines travel how would a pilot of a plane or submarine travel in a straight line avoiding Earth's curvature? So in a straight line from point A to point B, avoiding the curve. How would they do that? How can Navy vessels see enemy vessels 10, 20, 30, 100 miles away? The Earth's curvature wouldn't allow them to see it, but they could see it. Why? Because it's flat. It ain't curved. If it was curved, they wouldn't be able to see the enemy. 10 miles away, there's 66 feet of curvature. Those ships aren't that big. And if they're that big, then go 20 miles away. Then it's going to increase a lot more than 66 feet. You're not going to see that thing. How are you going to be able to shoot at it? Well, no one's ever seen the globe with their own eyes. You've only seen little pictures of it. There's pictures of Bigfoot too. So by your logic, you've got to believe in Bigfoot because you've seen a picture. There's even great videos of Bigfoot. Patterson Bigfoot, man, it looks real. If you believe in globe Earth, you got to believe in Bigfoot. There's just as much evidence for him, I think. It's a fact that the moon can't be more than 70 miles wide because its shadow is 70 miles wide. And I've sent you pictures of that before, team. The shadow of the moon on Earth during an eclipse is 70 miles wide. Your side likes to say, well, that's just the umbra, but the penumbra is thousands of miles. But when we look at it, and even Tony himself, I appreciate his honesty, when we look at that shadow that was shot from a weather balloon, the videotape of the actual shadow of the moon, of the moon's shadow on the Earth, within the perimeter of that shadow, you can see the umbra. There's a dark part, and then the light part is the penumbra around it. That whole thing is 70 miles wide, boys and girls. There's no third penumbra, a second penumbra. There's the umbra, penumbra, and then sunlit Earth. I need some water. That throws off your solar system. When the guys went to the moon and were jumping around, the astronauts hopping around on the moon, supposedly, we can see light bouncing off the cables there was cables connected to them that connected the astronauts to helium balloons that were big enough, but out of the camera's view, to kind of give the illusion like they're floating around. If you look at, I sent Team the video. He can put it up later if you want to look for yourself. But there's a glare where the light bounces off one of those cables, not close to his backpack, but further up, about 5 feet above his head. There's a glare. We see he's hanging on a wire. That's why they look like they're floating around in 6% gravity or whatever it's supposed to be up there. That's why. It's a trick. And we could see that. We saw it. You could see, anyone can see it. Here's another one. The guys on the moon and the little doom buggy they sent up there move slow. They move slow motion. But with less gravity, and less atmosphere, would you move faster or slower? You'd move faster, not slower. So they should be going fast. But the effect looks kind of like lunar and, moonwalking.
Do you want me to show that video, Vlad? Do you want me to show that video?
You could play which one?
The moon
Show
video.
I also got one of the Doom Buggy speeded up to 50.
Yeah. That's what I have. That's what I have
All right.
loaded up for you. Here we go.
All right. Can I keep talking, or while
Yeah.
you're looking at it?
Go ahead. Keep talking.
So, see, that's good. I'm glad you pulled that up, team. It's like lazy daisy, slow. We're on the moon. Everything's slow, like we're underwater, because it's floating. It puts in your mind the idea that it's floating because you float in water, and we know we move slow underwater. So it gives you that effect, like, wow, they're kind of weightless, and everything's slow when you're weightless. But the fact is, the situation on the moon isn't the same situation supposedly that we find in water, with less atmosphere and less gravity, opposed to the water with that thick atmosphere of the water. You're going to move slow in water, pushing, but here you should move faster if you're lighter and nothing's holding you back as far as atmosphere goes. Here now he speeds it here he just speeded up double. Look, it's just a guy in a dim buggy racing around in a film studio somewhere. And you can even see the double horizon. There's like the way that Hollywood makes videos. They got one real horizon in the front where that object is, and then in the back is like the fake one that they paint in to give it the illusion of a far horizon, and then the complete black curtain there. So when you play it at a different speed, you see it just looks like a regular guy riding a dune buggy on Earth. It's a trick, another trick. I'm gonna keep going. So I'd like to that question answered. Why it should be faster? Why is everything slow on the moon? We should be booking up there. Okay, then when people believe in evolution, believe in mutations, but mutations just duplicate what's already exists. It doesn't. A flipper is never going to become a wing in a mutation. Here's another one. I'd like to know, how did scales supposedly evolve? If things evolved, animals with scales turned into birds. So creatures with scales, over time, those scales turned into feathers. They evolved into feathers.
Vlad, but real quick, before we get too far into a separate topic of evolution, Tony, are you equipped to handle these questions, or would you prefer to keep it to flat Earth and mild atheism? It's up to you.
I can certainly have a go at some evolution-based questions, but it's not my speciality, and I wasn't particularly prepared for it. So, but okay. I can certainly address that question.
All right. Go ahead, Vlad.
Okay. So I'm almost done too, guys. We've all seen the picture of the monkey evolving into a man in our school books. And by the way, they had to use an artist to demonstrate what you guys believe. You can get it your way. Just put some paper out in the forest and let the wind blow the dirt and the graphite to make a nice picture over millions of years, and then you could show us, this is how evolution happened. You have to have a creator draw that monkey that turns a little bit more human-like, and then finally get a man. You have to use our method to demonstrate what you falsely believe. Let's see you do it your way. You can't. But of that, what I like to see is how does a scale evolve into a feather? They're so different. The scale is like heavy armor for the lizard, and the feather is light. Millions of little light hairs come out of that stem, and then the bird can fly. You can't even draw the transition. In the middle point, you have a useless piece on your body for any creature. If it's a half scale and a half feather, what good is it to the creature? It's not good armor in the desert, and it ain't gonna fly. So why would it evolve any further? That thing would drop dead. If it did happen, those creatures would all drop dead. That were evolving, transitioning halfway from scales into feathers. None of them would have flown away. But that's what you guys believe. Evolution teaches survival of the fittest. So why is it wrong for one man to kill another man and take his possessions? Why is that wrong? Because your universe is a meaningless, godless universe. It's just survival of the fittest. You take what you need, what you like to survive. Who cares about anybody else? I'll take what I want, and who cares about you if there's no God? But if there's a God, I gotta respect your human life and all things God made, all creatures, all life God made. I have to respect because I respect the master. But without God, who cares? I mean, you can play Mr. Goody Two Shoes, but you can play that or you don't have to. It doesn't matter. It's meaningless. There's no purpose. There's no ethics. There's no morality. There's no right or wrong. It doesn't exist in your universe. I'll cut it right there.
All right. Well, that's some good talking points. It was a bit all over the place, but I believe Tony is quite capable mentally to handle anything that was brought up tonight. Excuse me. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over and let you guys have an open discussion. Tony, I'll let you go first with any point that you want to bring up on that he brought up. And you guys just have your free-form conversation. I'll only interject if you guys are speaking over each other or it's drifting too far away from topic. So with that, go ahead, Tony. And if you have anything that you've sent me that you want to show, I can do that. So. I think your mic's muted, Tony.
Okay, sorry. Your argument is that humans were designed, right?
Right.
Okay, so how would you explain the laryngeal recurrent nerve? Okay. Now, you may not know what that is, but it's the nerve that you use to swallow, right? So it would make sense if you were designing a human being. If I were told to design a human being, I'm about to send team an image, not the Wikipedia page, but that image. Team, can you bring up that image, please?
Hey guys, I got to get a drink of water real quick. Okay, I'll be back in 5 seconds. Okay?
No problem. No, not the Wikipedia entry. Yeah, that image. It's going to need to. Yeah, okay. May need to be rescaled a little bit. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, a little bit of dead space. I was going to explain. Why I don't think that's a particularly good design, but we can.
Yeah, he's back. Let us know when you're ready, Vlad.
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead, Tony.
So on screen, if you can see it, is a diagram of the recurrent laryngeal nerve. This is the nerve that, like I say, covers governs our ability to swallow. And as you can see, it doesn't go from the brain straight to the larynx, which would be the reasonable way to design it. Instead, in all vertebrates, it goes down, it goes around the pulmonary aorta, and then it goes back up to the larynx. Now, evolution can explain why this happened, because the nerve was put in place before these creatures started having a pulmonary aorta. They didn't breathe air at the time when this nerve, when the nerve to swallow was developed, and so it was kind of put in place, and then later on it got moved. But this feature is shared by all mammals, all vertebrates, so even reptiles have it. Now, you asked about the evolution of the feather. I got an image for that as well. And you left out something. You said that there was protection and then there was flight. You left out heat and camouflage. These are both properties, and mating displays. These are all things. Sorry, I'm getting my own voice. So, team, can you bring up the image of the various stages of feathers that I sent to you?
Would that be that one right there? Oh, yeah, here. Sorry. There you go.
Okay. And so you can see that there are different stages that you go through. And those early stages where it's just spikes, they do actually help. They do actually help keep air close, keep warm air close to the skin, but allow cold air to go further away. And as you so when dinosaurs lived on Earth, actually the Earth was significantly warmer than it is now. It got a lot colder after that. So the animals that were alive then had to adapt to it suddenly not being as warm as they were used to. And they had to come up with different mechanisms for retaining their heat. Otherwise, they would have all frozen to death. So that's the explanation of feathers that you're asking for. Team, I just sent you an image of the eye, comparing two eyes. Can you bring that up, please?
It's up.
So here on the left is a vertebrate eye. All vertebrates have an eye that looks like this, and you can see there number 3 is the optic nerve. It comes in over the top of the retina there, and that creates a blind spot in our eye. We don't notice it because our brain corrects for it. Our brain knows that it's there and it corrects for it. But there are certain optical illusions that exploit this. You can look at something and then something else will disappear from your view, or it will change color because your brain is pretending that it's the same as the stuff around it. On the right is a cephalopod eye, so an octopus's eye. This is an invertebrate eye, and it doesn't have that design flaw. So the eye on the left has a design flaw. It has a drawback. If a human were to design this, they would not do that. They would design something that looks like the one on the right. The argument that humans are designed and that they're beautiful pieces of engineering, I would suggest actually that there's plenty of evidence of random happenstance in the design of humans. And let me take this one step further. I was a Christian for the first 35 years of my life. And at no point did I doubt evolution, because it never occurred to me that God couldn't create humans through evolution. God can do that. If God wanted to do that, and if God existed and wanted to do that, would you agree that he could create humans via evolution?
Yeah.
Okay, so the existence of evolution doesn't necessarily the existence of evolution doesn't disprove God. I don't think anybody can make that argument. God can exist independent of whether or not the Earth is round or flat or whatever. It could be whatever shape. God is different, right? He's not dependent on the universe for his existence. Do we agree there?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I've been speaking for a while, but so those would be my first comebacks about the design versus evolution argument. We've got some evidence that suggests that sort of some random stuff has happened, but that is independent of the existence of God. I don't think that even if evolution occurs, I don't think that can be extrapolated to suggest that God doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you say that, and it's nice that you say that, but in general, your side will eliminate God from that equation. God isn't necessary in the Big Bang evolution story, right, Tony? Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, so So that's why the evolution is the boogeyman for the people who believe in God. I mean, that's the enemy we see your side created to combat our God. We see
Okay.
it that way,
Well,
you know.
I just think that so my experience, and can I explain to you why I don't think that the God presented in the Bible exists?
Sure.
It's because if the people who said that they were talking to God were actually talking to God, and there was a God who was a good person, then he would tell them not to do the evil shitbag things that they do. Now, and even more than that. So, if there's a God, why do humans get skin cancer? Why is that a thing? Sort of, surely he designed the sun and he designed humans. Why is skin cancer a thing? If we're so wonderfully designed, the other, but why do animals suffer in this? Why, I saw your dog earlier, and it's for those in the audience, Vlad has just the most gorgeous dog, Roxy, and you can tell a lot about somebody as a person by how they treat animals, that Roxy is going to be a terror because Vlad is going to spoil Roxy rotten. But in the wild, animals suffer all the time, and they don't understand it. It doesn't serve any purpose, and I just wondered to myself, why does God allow that? Why is that allowed to happen? And I just have problems with that. But that's my journey. That's my perception, and I can't claim out. I'm not the type of person to come out and say you're wrong about your religious beliefs, because I had religious beliefs for a large part of my life. I just don't think it can be proven either way or the other. I don't think I can prove to you that God doesn't exist. You said that. You said God is separate from the universe. You can't prove that he doesn't exist. And I agree. A lot of religious experience is a matter of personal experience. And I'm somewhat skeptical of the validity of all personal experience, but I can't judge somebody else's lived experience. You've lived your experience. I can't judge that for you. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong on that. I can say I don't believe it and I have my reasons for that, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong. So I don't feel qualified. If that was the debate we were coming in here for, I don't feel like I'm qualified for that debate. I can explain why I don't believe in God, but I can't explain to anybody else why they should or shouldn't believe in God. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and you're not obligated to either. I mean, we could keep going this direction. Flat Earth, that's getting a little old, We could talk a little flat Earth too, though. It's not completely old, but I was expecting a debate with Irish Demon, and I was going to focus. So we were both a little bit, off of the.
There's a question in the chat. There's a question in the chat that I think does deserve. Jessica G asks, if there's a God, why did he make Team Skeptic look like an unwiped anus? That's I think that's a very good question.
And I answered the question already because I didn't wipe my face today. So.
I think. What do you want to talk about? I've dominated the conversation so far. So what do you want to chat about?
It's good. You make my job easier. I'm just listening to you. Well, you brought up a lot of stuff. Well, okay. For one thing, you brought up some flaws in the engineering of various life forms, like humans, and you brought up the octopus that have a certain flaw, So
yeah,
but basically the stuff works, right? I mean, it works. You said there was, it works. It still works. Now I'm going to ask you this. I'm getting a phone call. Hold on. I'm sorry. One
Okay.
sec, man.
That's okay.
This might be important. I gotta get this one.
Okay. All right.
Okay, one sec. Oh no, I don't need that one right now.
Okay.
Okay. I want to ask you this, Tony. You said that there's the throat nerve when they swallow it makes a loop that seems unnecessary, right?
Yep.
What
Yep.
what if it's that? Could it? And you said that it has to do with breathing, right?
Yeah.
So okay, but you guys say who believe in evolution that it was made that way back when the creature didn't breathe air.
Yeah, but they swallowed food. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Could that have happened because in the mother's womb the baby isn't breathing air, but yet it's being formed? Would that answer that?
But it isn't, not really, because it wouldn't be swallowing. So yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, that's. I mean, it just that doesn't seem like a plausible response to me. But it sort of, it just seems like it just.
Okay.
And I mean, if God wants, this is the thing, none of this is actually proof, right? If God wanted to design it that way, well, he designed it that way. I mean, it's one of the problems about a lot of these debates is that as soon as you bring God into it, evidence kind of becomes a malleable concept, because God's existence or non-existence can be asserted to be independent of any of his creations. He doesn't depend on humans or the universe to exist. But the whole point is that he exists independent of them. So there's nothing in the universe that he's going to depend upon. He's independent of the universe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but what we say and what we see is that the complexity of the creation tells our common sense it was made, and even if this throat nerve doesn't appear to work, it may appear inefficient to us. Like you kind of suggest to yourself, so what? He makes it the way he wants to make it. He's not running out of material, and maybe there is a reason it's that way. Apart from it evolved that way a long time ago. The main thing is that it works, it functions. You can breathe, you can swallow, and then
but that sorry, I should let you finish. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I'm going to say that then I like the argument, that the clockmaker argument, and then but somehow your side has said, oh, that's the clockmaker fallacy, like as though it's been debunked. No, it hasn't. The clockmaker, it's not. Let me say this. Just because your side says it's a fallacy, has been debunked, I don't agree. It completely destroys the argument that things just came together because something blowed up some billions of trillions of years ago, and it just randomly formed. For whoever doesn't know, if you get a tour on an island and the tour guide tells you no one has ever been on this island before, including me, and he takes you on that island, and no human, he's telling you, has ever been on this island. As you're walking across the shore of the sea, you look down and you see like a clock, right? And you pick it up and you say, wait, I thought you said no one's ever been here. Here's a clock. And then the tour guide tells you, well, just no one's been here. That just over millions of years, it evolved that way. And all the gears work together and they function. It's just a random cause of evolution, So, but now a human body, let's just take the human body compared to a clock. Human body is way more complicated. There's systems and mechanisms. A human body is a machine. There's mechanisms within mechanisms, systems working within systems, the digestive system. What good are your teeth and mouth if there's no saliva to break down the food? And what good is that if there's no tube that leads the food down your stomach? And what good is the tube if there's no stomach? And then within the stomach, there has to be more enzymes to break down the food. And then the intestines have to be there. It's all, and then push out of the body. It's all got to work together at once to benefit the
no.
It doesn't. How
Okay,
is it if it doesn't all work? And
So-
the body has to take nutrients from that food out and eliminate the waste. It's like a whole system. It doesn't just it doesn't just happen just because. You know?
Okay, so your that line of reasoning, I would suggest, is fallacious, in the sense that there is an advantage to having it. You know, there are plenty of animals like worms that have guts, right? You know, so the development of the gut is not tied to the existence of salivary glands. You know, the development of a gut is not tied to you know, to the existence of teeth, in the sense that you're using the term. So you know, the fact is that, you know, these things developed. They accumulated. So you had the simplest possible case first, and then you got increasingly more sophisticated over time. Which is to say that time, you know, if you've got enough time, you can end up with a result that looks like it's all perfectly designed, but actually you can't tell the difference between that and you know, like again, you know, the existence of skin cancer, for instance. You know, we've been under the same sun the entire time. Why did God decide that you know, that had to create skin cancer? It doesn't seem like a necessary or sufficient argument to believe in a God. But I feel like we're retreading the same terrain here. So I'd like to actually transfer a little bit to morality. Okay. Well, yeah, I'd like to transfer a little bit to morality. You said, you know, if there is no God, then there is no morality.
PhD. Let me just real quick address the 2 points you made about the worm and about cancer, quick, and then we'll move to morality. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So about the worm, you're saying that, well, it evolves because here's a less complex creature that also has a digestive system, but nevertheless, it has a system that works for that creature, for the worm, and it is complex. Whatever it's there and it works. And if you can go down to a bacteria, also if it's taking in food and eliminating waste, even that little bacteria is totally complex, more complex than a clockmaker argument. Even a bacteria has a system that works. You know, it won. And I'll just say about cancer, the story of creation. We're not in a perfect world right now. We're in a fallen world. We're not there yet. We're not where we want to be yet. We're transitioning.
Okay. So just to counter your first point, the point is, take for instance the existence of the eye. Evolution tells a story about how advantageous it is to be able to tell light from dark. If you can tell light from dark, you can detect that there might be a predator above you, or you can detect an area where food might be more likely to be, or you can detect that you're going too deep in the water, outside of the range you can survive in. You can detect all sorts of stuff if you can tell light from dark, and then, you know, more and more you can make the step from, you know, just having cells that are sensitive to light and dark to up to constructing, you know, very sophisticated visual systems like a hawk or an octopus or a squid. And not only do we have the story, not only do we have that story about how that works, but we have animals at every stage along that story. we can see animals that fit into that continuum. So we can see all of the different levels of complexity in detecting the eye in existence in the animal kingdom. So not only so it's not just we've made up a story and there's no evidence in the animal kingdom to support that story. We have come up with a story and it is validated by looking at this is looking at the evidence in the animal kingdom. And this is true more broadly of digestive systems, of exoskeletons versus skin, etc., etc. The various developments of organisms. There are lots of different refinements along the way, but we see a lot of the intermediate steps that we expect there. So it's I don't think you can. I don't. If what you would need to do is come up with something really, really complicated and say, okay, at no point in the animal kingdom is there any precursor to this. Okay, this exists in humans or in some other sort of animal completely independently. There's no way you could get there by gradual design. And I mean, even something like human intelligence. Actually, I've met some pretty bright dogs. They're actually really, really smart, and they have personalities. They have emotions. I've met dogs that I think deserve to get into heaven more than a lot of people do. All dogs go to heaven. Is that okay? I didn't know that. That would be the traditional counter argument. But let's move on to morality.
Hold on, let me hold on. I got to throw this zinger at you because I got one for you. Can you team put back that picture that Tony sent you of the feather, the scale evolving to the feather?
Because 1 second. Let me get that up.
Small transitions. We have examples of everything tiny transitioning, progressing forward in tiny increments. Okay, so look, the first picture, is that a scale, Tony? Looks like a tooth.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a scale with a horny projection off it.
All right. And then I imagine the one right next to it is the first step towards the feather, correct?
Yeah. It's the first step that we can identify in the fossil record, yeah.
All right. So, that scale and that first step are a million steps apart, Tony. That thing is...
Actually, okay, so all you're doing...
They're completely different. One is nothing like the other. You would need to...
Okay, so a rhinoceros horn is made of the same material as human hair. Okay, it's the same stuff. Now, all that is it's just a slightly different geometry. You're just making it thinner. You're just making it thinner and more of them. If you look at each of those tendrils coming out of that scale, they're all cylindrical. They're just longer in comparison with their thickness, and there are just more of them per scale. Now, to your eye, that looks like a vast difference, but I can tell you geometrically, they are topologically practically identical. There's very little distinction, and you can make the argument that you don't believe me, that you don't agree with me. That's fine. I can't help that. You might find that implausible. That's actually not my problem. If you want to find it implausible, I would argue you're not being objective about that interpretation. But I don't see debate as getting us anywhere on that one. You don't think that's plausible? Fine. Okay. If you don't,
I would say when I see the evolution chart drawing where the monkeys turning into a man, they have a little step-by-step process. You can see how the animation works. One step is close related to the other one, and there's little increments where the monkey becomes a man. That scale and
Okay.
that other thing are completely different.
Okay.
So
do an experiment for me. Do an experiment for me. Take the image on the left. Okay.
I don't see it.
Now, okay,
Yeah.
that image on the left, the one that's marked with the single stroke. Okay. Now, cut it vertically along its axis into a lot of little strips. Is it going to look like the one just to the right of it?
But why
So
would
all
that
that's
happen?
all that I've why would that happen? Because the shape on the right is more efficient at retaining heat than the one on the left.
But the creature who has the scale on the left is fine with that type of scale. And I mean, so if
Yes,
I'm cold,
but the
if I'm
environment
cold,
has changed. The
hold on.
environment has changed. It's gotten colder.
If I'm cold, my children are going to be born with jackets.
No, that your children are either going to be better adapted to it being cold, or they're going to die.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to grow little fuzzies like that on their body.
Well, then again, we're back to you don't think that can happen, and I do, and I don't see how we can debate that. That's just you asserting something and me asserting something. That isn't really that isn't really fodder for debate. You don't find that plausible, okay? I can't help you then.
Well, all right. We'll move to morality, but I'll just throw real quick out there. You said in this process things are constructed. In our the way we believe, we have an engineer to construct things. You guys don't. You're lacking the engineer because you yourself said construct. Nothing doesn't construct. Yeah. And then why would nothing? Why would there need to be anything at all? Why does there need to be anything at all? Nothing is fine, just being nothing. But we have things.
Yeah.
There's creation.
Yes, well, if there were nothing, then we wouldn't be around to ask the question. So it's kind of pointless. This is called the Anthropocentric Argument. There exist humans, therefore there must exist a universe. Therefore, but the existence of the universe can't be logically used to extend that. Well, it must have been created by something. Well, there are two states: either there's always something, or there's always nothing. We happen to be in the there was always something category. Live with it. There doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be.
Why?
No,
Why
it doesn't. It doesn't owe you an explanation. There just is. Reality doesn't have to make sense. And indeed, my argument is, again, I started out as religious, but reality, a God that is both ethical and moral and kind, who doesn't intervene to prevent the cruelty and suffering that I see in the world, doesn't make sense to me. If he does exist, he's an uncaring asshole. And so, but then he can't be a good God. I can't say that there doesn't exist a God, but I can say that if there is a God, then he's a prick. Because there's just way too much suffering. There's way too, not just of humans. Obviously you can make the argument, well, humans need to suffer in order to get into heaven. They're learning from it. Well, that doesn't explain why animals suffer. True, you say with some confidence that the dogs get into heaven. I actually quite like cats too. There are lots of animals I think don't deserve the suffering that they experience. Diseases that they don't understand, injuries that condemn them to slow starvation, just natural disasters. There's all of this crap that causes suffering and distress in animals. Why? What purpose does that serve? What? And it is not sufficient to say God has his reasons. No. If God, if God is completely alien and uncaring, then I don't want anything to do with him. Because I can't see a reason why somebody would show compassion to another human being, but not show compassion to a suffering animal. I don't see it. If you're going to be kind to humans, you should be kind and you should prevent suffering in animals. Now, the vegans and the vegetarians are going to leap all over me. Just because I eat stuff doesn't mean I want it to suffer horribly. I think we can eat meat and still be humane about it. I'm not suggesting that, and meat, the animals that we raise for meat, they live well-protected lives where they are protected from predation, they are protected from disease, and they are killed in as humane a way as we can manage, in our society at least. So I don't see the contradiction in doing that. But God has the capacity to not have this happen. But he chose to make it happen anyway, and that's why I don't think, based on what I've seen, I don't think God can be ethical. Just the amount of suffering he allows to happen, I just don't buy it. But that's me. Again, that's just me. This is just my personal experience. I can't claim that. I am not going to tell you that you are wrong for believing. It's just my journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, even if you look at it the way that you do, why all the suffering, even if, let's say, God is a bad guy, it doesn't change the fact that the creation equals a creator. It's not possible without him. Now, you want to judge God before the story's over. You see the suffering in the world, and you want to make a judgment on God, why it's that way. We don't know until the story's over, until everything's done. We live in a fallen world, and if you read in Genesis, we see how we get all this sickness and disease and stuff in the world. But there's not how it's going to be forever.
All right, we can. So let's address your creation requires a creator. Okay, there are multiple creation myths out there. Why is yours better than anybody else's?
What are the other ones? Like, what's different?
Well,
people believe in creation believe the same way.
They don't believe that the same person did it. No.
Oh, you mean different religions?
Yes, different religions.
Well,
why is your religion better than anybody else's?
Well, if Zeus is God, let him come down so we can believe in him. So like Christ did.
Well, can I? Well, Christ existed, but Christ doing anything divine is there's no evidence for. Now
there is.
No, there isn't. So by definition, if you write down, you destroyed this argument yourself. Actually, you presented the counter argument. So there are people who have written down stories about Christ doing divine things. Okay, but by definition, somebody writing down something that is not physically possible is not evidence of the physically impossible thing having happened. So written testimony about a miracle is not in and of itself evidence of the miracle. And if the miracle could occur and be demonstrated to have occurred, then it would not be a miracle. It would just be part of the natural order of things. So you've kind of got there's a you believe the Bible, but that's a circular argument. You believe that you believe that Christianity is a superior religion because of the stuff in the Bible. But what if I don't believe the stuff in the Bible? Certainly, there's stuff in the Bible that is demonstrably wrong or at least inconsistent. There's inconsistent with itself and inconsistent with observed reality. It just doesn't. You started out this debate by quoting scripture, but that again is a circular argument. The Bible says this, therefore the Bible is right. Therefore God exists and the Bible is right. That's a circular argument. Right?
If you don't like the Bible, Tony, that's fine. The Jews have their Talmuds. The Jews who don't like Jesus wrote in the Talmuds that he was a magician who worked wonders. They saw the miracles and they wrote down. They have a verbal tradition and they also have an oral tradition and a written scriptures as well. But the Jews will tell you. So if you don't like the Bible, you can look at the Talmuds and they tell you about Jesus.
We're accepting the existence of sorcerers, are we?
Well, the Jews saw it.
So yes, also in the Old Testament, when Moses and his brother compete in front of the Pharaoh, they are competing against other sorcerers, and there is no suggestion in that biblical verse that the other sorcerers can't do magic. The other sorcerers are described as bringing snakes into existence, as doing magic. It's just that Moses' snake eats all of theirs. So Moses just does better magic. Are you accepting that as factual? Are you accepting that people can magically create snakes?
Well, people used to know how to do some wild stuff, man. They did, And some people probably still do, but they don't tell you. They don't teach you how to do that stuff in school.
Okay, there are people who can, perform illusions that make you think that they've turned a stick into a snake. Not like
the ISS and when they put men on the moon, those kind of magic tricks. But I mean, real stuff that we could call magic, but there's just a way to manipulate elements of nature that you might call magic. But if you know how to do it, it's people can do those things, but it's not taught to you and me.
Yeah. So the
I'll be right back.
Well,
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Give me a second. Right on. I need to get a bigger cup. When I have these debates, I always get a dry mouth for some reason.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, honestly, Tony, this is going not too bad. He's being actually pretty civil tonight. So, Tony's gone too. I guess it's just me. Hey, how you doing, everybody? Thank you so much for coming out.
I was just getting a drink. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I'll entertain the people while you guys take a quick little break. Yes, thank you everybody for coming out. We're gonna continue on here in a moment. We're gonna allow them to grab a few drinks and come back. Vlad needs a beer to relax himself, and Tony needs about a fucking 2 pints of whiskey to get through this tonight. But it is actually a pretty good.
Haven't even had any today, so there you go. Setting a new standard.
Well, good for you, man. Good for you. I'm gonna bring up some things whenever you guys get done because there's a few points that he made. I know he kind of pushed a lot of points out at the beginning, and of course you're not going to be able to get to all of them, but I do want to address a point that he made when we get to the end of this discussion. So we'll probably end a few minutes late so I can bring up a point that he brought up earlier. But let me turn it back over to you guys, and y'all can continue on now.
Okay, so I want to get back to sort of this the arguments about the shape of the Earth a little bit, and I didn't bring up a photo. I didn't bring up the lunar missions. I didn't bring up planets. What I brought up was my primary piece of evidence was the distances and the time taken to travel between 2 points on Earth's surface. and you spectacularly failed to address that, even a little bit. Now, it is possible for the Earth to be round and for the lunar missions to be faked. It is possible for the Earth to be round and space not to exist. It is possible for the Earth to be round and the entire space program be fictitious. Your arguments about the space program are irrelevant to the shape of the Earth. And the evidence I presented was that whenever something travels on the Earth or inside the Earth between 2 points whose location we know, the time taken for that to occur is in agreement with the spherical geometry. Do you have a response to that at all?
Well, give me one example.
Okay, so the time taken for a tsunami to travel from the point where it is generated to other points on Earth's surface, we know the speed at which tsunamis travel. It's actually hundreds of kilometers an hour. They're very, very fast. And we can calculate the amount of time that it's going to take for the tsunami to get there. And in fact, this is part of the tsunami early warning system. Similarly, we can use the time taken for seismic waves to travel between certain points on Earth's surface to work out where the earthquake or the initiatory mechanism started from. So yeah, that's an example of direction of navigation. If you just move a little bit forward from that team, So that right there, again, sailing from one point to another, you get the right distance if you use the spherical formula. It's what we use for calculating distance. Jets, when they travel, the amount of fuel that they take is calculated using the spherical distance formula. Everything that we can measure, everything that we observe. Pick three widely separated cities on the United States. Tell me their latitude and longitude, and I will tell you what the distance between them is using the formula, using the spherical formula, and then you can go and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that I've got one of the distances wrong. It will work all the time. This spherical distance formula will work all the time. Try the 9-minute mark, I think, team. But anyway.
Would you try the what?
Yeah, there, that. So that formula right there, that allows us to, if we know the latitude and longitude of 2 points, and you can do it too. I'll give the calculator to you, and you can run the numbers through. Give me the latitude and the longitude of any 2 points on Earth, and I can use that, and that formula will give me an extremely good estimate of the distance between them, and it works every time. We use it all the time.
It works on a flat surface too, though. A flat surface has longitude and latitude as well.
But the distance won't be the distance won't be the same. The distance formula on a disk is different.
Well,
it's not the same formula.
On one of the videos I sent to team, they superimpose Jupiter with that image of Jupiter onto a sphere to make it look animated. But the image of Jupiter that they look at through the telescope on Earth, appears the way that it does with the straight lines coming across, and they can take that image and wrap it around a sphere.
I'm struggling to work out the relevance of this segue. It is mathematically impossible to have a uniformly distance preserving projection from a sphere onto a flat surface. And part of the problem is that, there's no edge to a sphere, right? Somewhere there's got to be an edge, but we don't see it in any of the distance calculations. The time it takes for weather systems, planes, earthquakes, pressure waves, sound, all of this stuff gets from one point on Earth's surface to another point on Earth's surface in very close to exactly the time that we expect it to, based on the spherical formula. That can't be true if the Earth is flat. The distance.
How does a wave travel around a loop-de-loop sphere? A wave travels across a flat plane. A wave can't. It's going to get lost trying to travel. A wave. How's a wave going to travel around a sphere? It's not, that doesn't work. A wave travels across straight from point A to point B. Wave goes from here to here.
No, they don't. Have you ever been fortunate enough to have a child?
Yeah, a child?
Yes, a child.
Yeah, I have a couple of them.
Okay. While your lovely wife was pregnant, did she have an ultrasound?
Yeah.
Okay. Sound waves travel through objects, right? They don't just travel over the surface of objects. They travel inside the objects. They bounce off the stuff that is there, and it comes back. That's how ultrasounds work. Waves. So they use sound waves. They transmit the sound waves through this or through matter, and they look at the transmission properties. Another example you may be familiar with.
Hold on. Are you saying you could send a sound wave from Australia to the United States through the Earth?
Yeah, certainly. I beg your pardon?
I mean, the ultrasound shoots a wave. It goes straight through the belly, and it's not that big. The woman's stomach is not that big. It goes through her body, nice and straight, and you see the picture of the baby in there. Now you're telling me you have a machine that can shoot a wave through the whole planet, and you're in Australia, and some guys in America. It's probably shooting across the Earth. It's shooting nice across the Earth, like on top of it.
Demonstrably not.
What machine can do that?
A nuclear weapon.
Can I see a video of them? I mean, a nuclear weapon?
Yes, when you detonate a nuclear weapon, it sends vibrations out inside the Earth that travel through the Earth and are detectable at great distance from the.
That happened on a flat Earth too. If you drop a drop in the lake, the little rays will come out as well. That's how it works.
Yes, but the travel time, the distances between the points will be different, and the travel times will be different on a flat Earth. The point. Yeah, you just circled back to where I started this. We can use the fact that waves do travel like this. And you're right, waves would travel between the 2 points, but the time that it takes them to do that will depend on the distance that they are apart. Actually, team, can you go forward about 2 minutes there from where you are?
I'll tell you another thing.
Little further.
Know the real distances.
Hold on, Vlad. Where at? You said maybe another minute?
Maybe another minute. There. Yep, that one. Okay. So if you look here at this diagram, okay, the diagram on the left, okay, the bottom left, that is a plot of angular distance versus time. If an earthquake occurs at the surface of the planet at point in that bottom left-hand corner, the time it takes for the waves to travel a certain angular distance away, the different phases will arrive approximately along those lines. each of those lines running across represents a different seismic phase. So they're different types of seismic waves that have bounced off different things inside the Earth. And we can predict which ones are going to arrive first, how long they're going to take to arrive before it's even occurred. We can predict this. This is a chart of predictions. So all you would need to do is find an earthquake, a significant seismic event for which that diagram is wrong, for which those dozens and dozens and dozens of predictions for tens of thousands of seismic events, if any one of them is significantly in error, bang, you're done. But you can't do that because we've looked at the data very, very carefully, and we've worked out that is reliable enough that we can use it. So the argument...
If there's an earthquake in China, how long does it take you to know that over here? How do you, as opposed, comparing a globe Earth to a flat Earth? What's the difference going to be?
The difference will be that on a flat Earth, it's going to get there faster than on a globe Earth.
So how fast does it go on a globe Earth compared to what it would be flat Earth?
Well, you can basically seismic waves can travel from one side of the Earth to the other side of the Earth in something like 90 minutes, a little less than that, I think. On a globe. On flat, it would have to take longer because the distances are larger.
Is the wave going through the ground, through the middle of Earth and back to the other side? Or is it going across the ground? How do you know it goes through?
That depends on the type of wave. There are waves that are trapped near the surface, that only occur near the surface and only propagate near the surface. I was talking about Rayleigh waves. They're a type of wave that stays very near the surface and they just rotate around the shell. And you may remember they do multiple laps. They go around, they come back, they go around, they come back, and they do multiple laps of the Earth. And not only do they go in one direction from the earthquake to the thing, there's another wave that goes around the other way and comes up from behind, and it'll do another lap. So there are multiples of these waves that are trapped near the surface. But the reason we can do the calculations is because we can
bounce back and forth on a flat disk too. It'll bounce to the edge and come back the same way.
Yes, but as I explained an hour ago, the recurrence time. So if I've got a disk like this, and here's my earthquake over here, the seismic wave. Actually, it'll probably be easier if I've got a green. If I've got the green thing here. So the seismic wave starts here. It goes across. It hits my side over there. It bounces off the edge. So the time it takes between the first passage and the second passage depends on how close I am to the edge, not how close I am to the earthquake. That's not what we observe. What we observe is that the time it takes for the first one and the second one depends. So, here's my glass. Okay, I'm going to point it at the camera. Here's the earthquake. It goes around like that. The time it takes to get back depends on the distance from the earthquake. So it goes round and again, round and again. So we can tell the difference. We can tell the difference. We can tell that it isn't a disk.
Okay. Now, when you look at a globe, I happen to have one here. I've always thought it's strange that there's a lot of land on the front of it. I'm trying to get in the camera. There's a lot of land in the front, okay, but then in the back, there's a whole lot of empty water there, and I've always thought that was strange, and I think that's
not just it's not just strange, it's very, very frustrating. So I'm a professional earth scientist, and we would like to have seismic stations and observing stations all over the Earth, so that we could, but we can't because there's There's
That's how
water
they play
everywhere.
with numbers. That's how they can play with the numbers, because they got this.
They
ambiguous area.
can't play with the they
No one
can't
really
play
knows.
with the numbers. They can't play with the numbers. It won't work. And
Man,
you
there's too much empty space right there to truly track it.
to be all you need is time. All you need is time. We know how fast seismic waves travel. We can measure it.
But what you believe the size of the Earth is may not be what it really is. You just are given a number.
No, it's not.
Measure it yourself.
No,
You measured it yourself.
No, we can.
We don't know. We don't know the size,
actually,
and we don't know the real distances. We don't know.
If you could let me address.
We're told it's this far, but we don't know.
No, we're not. Okay, so the group that I work with, is dedicated to a scientific field called geodesy. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, and also before I forget, I want to know, what is the machine? I'd like to see it. If you can Google it to team, the machine that can catch a wave going through the Earth, through the middle, from one side to the other. Can I see that machine?
There are no machines that capture the wave at intermediate points on the Earth.
All right, then that's a point for me,
just like there is no machine inside your wife when she is having her ultrasound.
No, but the ultrasound machine.
No, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same principle. There is no machine capturing the wave. There is no machine inside your wife capturing the sound waves inside your wife. They go in, they bounce off the stuff that's inside, and they come back to the surface, just like, but we can tell from the character of them what is inside your wife without having to stab her with something to make sure that the sound waves are there. It's you're being intellectually.
That's the ultrasound machine. I've seen it. What machine are you using to look through the whole Earth? You're detecting a vibration from one.
They're called seismometers.
But those they're called across the top of the shell. You're saying you can go all the way through.
Just like the ultrasound machine is on the surface of your wife and not inside your wife.
I'm not saying inside. You're saying.
Yes, you are.
No. You're not understanding me. You're saying there's a machine I can set up on United States that can catch a wave coming from Australia through the Earth, not across the shell, through, like it went all the way through, like one side to the other. Man, come on. There's no machine like that. It catches the waves on the shell. Or on the shell.
No, it doesn't. Through. No. So again, look. You do understand that there are nuclear test ban treaties, right? There are bans on the use of nuclear tests, right? And we know that North Korea has violated that. North Korea has, in the past decade, detonated several nuclear devices. How do you think we know that?
A lot of us don't believe in the nukes, Tony. We don't believe in those nukes. A lot of us don't. That's like a boogeyman. That's like we don't believe that stuff.
What?
A lot of people don't believe in nukes, man. It's just a big bomb. It's a big bomb, but it ain't what. You don't. Like that thing that takes out, that wipes out that town. That was a model. That was like a little model that they built.
Okay, so at this point, this has stopped being a discussion. Okay, so you're prepared to say that anything I say isn't true with no evidence other than you don't believe it. Okay, fine. There's no counter to that. You're not going to accept any evidence I present. You're not going to accept any science I present. You're not going to accept any. You make assertions and then you won't be quiet long enough to hear the answer. We are not told the shape of the Earth. We can determine it. There are multiple techniques we can use to determine the shape of the Earth. GPS, for instance. My group analyzes GPS data. We determine the solutions ourselves. We solve for the geometry of the GPS constellations and the stations on the surface of the Earth. I've worked with people who use interferometric signals from distant quasars to determine Earth's shape. There's satellite laser ranging missions that determine Earth's shape. There's the Doris GNSS system that determines the Earth's shape. And then we can move into geodetic surveying and determine Earth's shape from that. Now, you just say, oh, well, I don't believe any of that. Okay, don't.
No,
see if I care.
We see too far for it to be round, like you say. We can see too far. If it was round, like you say, we wouldn't be able to see as far as we do. But the plain, simple truth. You're talking about gadgets.
Can you bring up a Can you bring up the picture of an AWAC? Do you know what an AWAC is?
Yes. 1 second. Let me get that.
Okay. Rad, do you know what an AWAC is?
No.
Okay, so this is a military vessel with a large downward pointing radar dish that is used to locate and identify ground targets so that particularly naval forces can target them. If the Earth is flat, this thing serves absolutely no use, right? Because you can just detect stuff from the ground, no problems. So the AWAC
was fine before that plane. They used to shoot each other down from far enough away. I don't know what they used that thing for, but the Navy was shooting. They were shooting far away targets just fine before that plane existed.
So the plane is valueless. The plane is a complete waste of money. The United States taxpayer has been built yet again by a fraudulent government because that thing, which took hundreds of millions of dollars to develop and hundreds of millions of dollars per unit, is just a complete waste of fucking time. That's what you're saying?
Look, I'm saying we were hitting targets to not possible hit on the globe before that thing existed. I don't know what it does. We were hitting the target and we were seeing too far. Tony, on your Earth, if I'm standing 3 miles away from you on the beach at water level, you shouldn't be able to see me because I'm less than 6 feet. But that's ridiculous because if you had a telescope on a clear day, you don't think you could see me from 3 miles away? Of course you could. Earth is flat. Because on your Earth you can't see me. Simple as that. It ain't that complicated. You wouldn't be, but that's ridiculous. We all know you could see me if I'm standing on the marina. By the Marina Del Rey Pier, and you're at the pier in Santa Monica, and you have a telescope on a clear day, you're gonna see me from my feet to my head. Easy. So on your globe Earth, that's not possible.
So Rad, you're just making baseless assertions at this point.
No, all right, we got also guys, we have about 10 minutes left in this section. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left.
Tony's talking about gadgets and gizmos and things that nobody can check for themselves. But I'm talking about simple things anybody with a telescope and a buddy can go out to the beach and prove you can see further than 3 miles. Because
I don't need to
6 feet.
I do not need to be lectured on what is scientifically plausible by somebody who doesn't believe in nuclear power plants, nuclear reactions, relativity, the moon landings, GPS, or seismometers. If you want to go and live in you want to go and live in a cave, feel free.
You're Mr. Smarty Pants with all the gadgets, but you can see me 3 miles away. That means Earth is not flat because, it means Earth is flat. It feels round. You can't see me.
Again, you're
just
simple. Making
something anybody can do.
You just made you're making a series of cases. Then go and do it and film it. And we can tell you about atmospheric conditions.
Oh,
but the reason
refraction. You know why I don't waste my time? I don't waste my time because you guys are going to go, oh, it's refraction and atmospheric, la, la, la.
Yes, it's demonstrable reality. It's demonstrable reality, just like seismic waves.
It's refraction.
It's just like seismic waves.
That's why I don't waste my time doing it. If I do it and I show you, I can show you my friend stand at the other pier. That's just refraction.
It has no bearing. It has no bearing. This is why I didn't use any optical. This is why I didn't use any optical data whatsoever.
We shoot a laser over the water.
Let him finish. Let him finish. Yeah, let him finish, Vlad. Let him finish.
Can you bring up the Gemini 5 footage?
Yes. 1 second.
This better be good.
All right. You sent that to me on Discord, yeah?
That's right.
All right, let me
The footage you're about to see comes from 1965.
All right, it should be up. Is it not up? Okay, here you go.
Yeah, that's up. So, what shape is the Earth, mate?
Buddy, come on, man. I'll show you a picture of Bigfoot, too.
I'm
looking at
Tell me how that could be fabricated in 1965.
Oh yeah, they had some good movies in those days, man. That looks like special effects.
They didn't.
What's that guy doing?
You go and find me a 1965 movie that looks anything like this. You're never going to, because they don't exist. Look at Forbidden Planet.
It looks like it's made from 2000.
Let him finish, Vlad. Let him finish. Go ahead, Tony.
If you look at the movie Forbidden Planet, I don't know if you can bring up a still from Forbidden Planet. That's what 1960s science fiction movies looked like. They had cheap sets. They didn't do any space stuff.
What's so hard about what you're showing me? You got a background with a curved Earth, and then you got a guy like fumbling around, hanging on a wire or something. What's he supposed to be doing anyways? Like tangled up in those wires. What the hell is he doing? What's so hard about that special effect, Tony? I can do that myself in my backyard.
Yes, you can. No, you can't. I suggest you go and try.
What's so hard? That looks real. This looks real. The thing you showed before.
Like anyone gives a rat's ass anymore what you think is real.
Why don't those clouds move? How come the clouds are moving? Let's see the clouds moving. How long does that video last? How long does that video go for? Frozen clouds. How come those clouds are moving?
They're moving relative to the vessel. You can see the clouds changing in relation to the vessel. Like, Rad, really, I wasn't trying to make you look idiotic, but I think you've succeeded despite me.
No, but the claim very foolish. You're very naive. You're very naive to believe stuff like this, Tony. I'll show you a better video of Bigfoot. So, by your logic, you must believe in him as well. I'll show you a video of Bigfoot. Looks great. Better than this. So you believe in Bigfoot.
It doesn't.
Pictures. Show me this with my own eyes, man. You're very, very naive. You're very naive, Tony.
Yes, and you're very stupid and ignorant. I don't see that. I don't see that. I don't see if we're going to get in.
I don't believe what I see on TV.
If we're going to get, yes.
You believe little pictures.
Well, your eyes aren't actually very well designed. Your brain is even less well designed.
Buddy, how come we can't go up there? This was 100 years ago. How come you and me can't go up there? It's only 60 miles.
It's not 100.
What's so hard about it? Why can't we get up there, Tony?
Okay.
It's so hard. You can fly 2,000 miles parallel to the Earth.
Are you going to let me answer your question or not?
Let him answer. Go ahead and answer, Tony.
Stupid. Say
Hold
something
on,
smart.
Vlad. Hold on, Vlad.
I'll
Go
let
ahead,
you
Tony.
talk. Say something smart. You're talking a bunch of nonsense.
Are you finished?
Go ahead.
Done now.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. The reason is because it takes energy, a lot of energy, to move mass upwards through Earth's gravitational field. You can test this for yourself by walking from the bottom of the Empire State Building to the top of the Empire State Building. Now, in order to get up there,
It's 60 miles. It's not a big deal. It's 60 miles up. What's so hard about that?
You walk up 60 miles.
Conor McGregor can pay it, man. He's got like $100 million.
Can I finish your question, or are you just going to? Or are you just going to?
It's too expensive. It's so hard. It's 60 miles up. We it's too hard. Why this guy did it? He's supposedly this guy's up there. Wasn't too hard for him. 100 years ago? 100 years ago, he's up there fumbling around. Getting tangled up in some wires. What's the guy even doing up there? Well, he's having a hard time up there with a fake, with a simple fake little background behind him. Give me a break, man.
Are you going to finish practicing at any point in the foreseeable future?
I mean, anybody with common sense can look at that. Maybe it's easier for me. I went to art school. I know pictures. I know a real. I can tell the difference between reality and fake stuff.
Let him answer. Let him answer, Vlad, because you brought up a point. He started to answer it, and then you kept talking. So go ahead, Tony.
Okay. Have you ever tried breathing at an altitude of 10 kilometers?
Now there's no air. You can't get air. You can't get air in the capsule. You can't get air in the.
It's a yes or no question. Yes or no. Have you ever tried breathing at an altitude of 10 kilometers?
Well, listen. If they did it 100 years ago,
it's a yes or no question. It's a yes or no question. Can you answer it with yes or no, please?
I don't know. I haven't been. They can't get me up that high. I haven't been up. No, man.
So you need to.
I know. I've never been up there that high. It's not. I might find out.
Have you ever flown in a plane?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you inside the plane or were you outside the plane?
I was outside.
Do you know what happens when planes decompress?
No.
The people inside suffer hypoxia and they lose consciousness. This has led to several fatalities and plane crashes. Are you aware of that?
Tony, you're taking fun, buddy. That guy is up in space 100 years ago. No problem. Having fun. Float. He's getting tangled up in those wires. Get me up there and I'll believe it. Don't give me excuses. Get me up there and I'll believe it. Talking about planes and stuff, man. He's up there. It wasn't so hard for him 100 years ago. Elon Musk could do it like that. Like, he's got rockets that go up and land, do all kinds of stuff. Easy.
Yes, if you were less of an idiot, you might stand a chance of getting on one. So you need to carry up your air. You need to carry up stuff to protect you from the temperature. You need to carry up your vessel in addition to your. All of this is heavy. All of this increases the amount of fuel that you need. The increasing the amount of fuel increases the weight that you need to carry up. Now, so it's not it is not sufficiently cheap that you can afford it. If you want to pay the amount of can you stop interrupting me while I'm talking, please?
You're making a silly point. You're making very stupid arguments I've heard before, man. People have money.
Let him finish. Vlad, I'll let you answer in a second, Vlad. But go ahead, Tony. Yeah. Okay, well, we only have about 3 or 4 minutes left, so I'll let Tony finish making his point, and I'll let you respond, and then we'll. I have something to ask you too.
They could afford it 100 years ago, but today no one's got enough shekels to get up
It's
there.
not 100 years ago. 100 years ago was 1920. This was 1965. It was 55 years ago, and the U.S. space program at the time, required a vastly larger proportion of GDP than is dedicated to it nowadays. They spent a disproportionate amount of money on trying to get to the moon, and they did it in small, experimental, incremental stages that you seem to be completely ignorant about, saying that they got to the moon with no test flights. This is a test flight. And then you say, oh, well, the test flight doesn't exist because I don't believe the test flight. Well, I don't believe the test flight because I don't believe the lunar landings. I don't believe the lunar landings because there was no test flight. It's circular reasoning. You've got nothing other than incredulity.
What's the test? What was the? I didn't know that's a test flight up there. What that was a rocket that went up to space, and he maneuvered it. Did he maneuver up, down, left, right, side to side?
Yes, that's what he's doing.
No, yes. He looked like he was tangled up. He looked like he smoked some pot, and he's getting tangled up in the wires. He doesn't know what he's doing there. He needs someone to help him get tangled up. Maneuvering a spacecraft.
The U.S. space program started with the, it started a little bit earlier than what I'm going to suggest, but it actually involved the Mercury launches, then the Gemini launches, and then they went into the Apollo launches. And before they got to the moon, there were 9 different Apollo missions, and each of these missions, this is the Gemini 5 mission that I'm showing footage on here. This is the 5th launch. I'm not sure how many Mercury missions there were in total. Not sure how many Gemini missions there were in total because I'm not, I'm not across my space trivia. But I do know that there were 9 Apollo missions.
He's doing a spacewalk, getting tangled up in some cables.
Yes.
The guy who went to the moon were maneuvering that spacecraft, up, down, left, right, landing, taking off. Where's the guy doing that? Practicing how to fly that thing in space. Can I see that?
So yes, you can. It's in the various, but I'm not here to do your research for you. Read through the history of the Apollo 2 to Apollo 10.
I saw them practicing how to fly the lunar module in the air.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
You can look up the history that this is recorded in detail, the various techniques that they use to detach the lunar module, separate it, rotate it, and then reconnect. They did a test for that. They did a test that in case anything went wrong, they could do extra vehicular activity.
I don't want to read about it. I don't want to read a story. I want to see it.
Well, stiff shit. You'd be surprised how little modern science or the space program cares about doing stuff for your benefit.
No,
that's not what this is.
Showing me a guy doing a spacewalk with a curved Earth. Yes. They want a curved Earth. How come I can't see him maneuvering that craft through space?
Because you can. Probably the footage exists. I don't care. And I'm not going to find it for you. You know where to find it.
I look for it. It doesn't exist. I look for it.
Yeah,
it don't exist.
You strike me as a person. Yes, earlier in this stream, it took you 5 minutes to find your vMix window. Your ability to do online research is actually not as strong as a little slow. Really, do tell.
All right. All right, guys. Look. We're going to end the back and forth there. I appreciate both of you guys. But I have a question for you, Vlad, because this is something I wanted to bring up. Tony didn't bring it up, but there was a lot of points that you made, so it's understandable why he didn't get to all of them. You said when we were talking about, you brought up genetics and mutations, and you said something about they're there because they've always been there, or that they were put there, or was something along those lines. Can you clarify exactly what you said there?
Wait, tell me to run that one by me again. There
Yeah,
because
it was something you brought it up about genetic mutations. It was in your arguments, and you said that the mutations were the things that we use to prove that that evolution exists. That
okay.
you said that they're there
Um,
because they've always been there. Okay,
no,
clarify first.
no, okay. What I might have said it wrong, but that's that's one I haven't ran through my mind too many times. But I just heard someone saying who argues for creation that when he criticizes the mutation argument for the evolutionists, that by little mutations we're able to transition from species to species. So what starts out as a frog can one day become a flying bird. What he said is a mutation will only duplicate what's already there, or duplicate it in in a
Right.
goofy way. Like I've seen people with mutated hands that it's like a little hand that doesn't look right. It's never going to become a wing, or it's never going to benefit the person, the life form who has the mutation. It's gonna be less of what it should be, not better
Okay.
than what it should be.
So
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna share my. I'm sorry, I meant to be on camera here. I'm actually gonna share something with you, and I want you to think about this and go back and look, because this is one of the strongest arguments for evolution there is. Okay, and it involves what's called ERVs, and endogenous retroviruses. I believe I said that right. But anyway, on an ERV, okay, the way an ERV works, let me draw it on screen here, and let me put this on full screen so you guys can see what I'm drawing. Team Skeptic School of Art, sign up when you're ready. Okay, so you have the DNA strand of a person, right? And it's full of these little, well, I made the thickness a little too much there, but it's full of these little, they connect. The ACTG, I believe they connect, right?
Yeah.
All right, and this is supposed to be a double helix strand. Now, when an ERV inserts itself, what it does, and I'll change the color just so I can kind of show. Let's say it breaks it right here and right here, okay? Let's say that an ERV decides to insert itself right here and right here. So what we end up getting is something that looks like this. Okay, here's one part of the strand. Here's the other, okay? And then the strand gets broke off here. Wait, let me draw this out here. And here, all right? And the ERV inserts itself right here. All right, now as you can see, there's an area of overlap here, okay, where you have the connectors that go this way, and then you have, and I know biologists out there are going to be screaming at me at what those connectors are actually called, but I'm trying to make it simple for everybody. All right, so you have the connectors here and here. Now, for this retrovirus to properly insert itself, it has to mimic this, okay? So, in other words, like, let's say these right here were different than these right here, okay? I believe they're called, well, I don't even want to say it because then I'm going to get it wrong. So, this is what we call the LTR to LTR connection, all right? So if these two are different, then this connection will never happen right here. And the retrovirus just simply will not be able to insert itself into the DNA strand. It must be identical, all right? It must be identical. So when it does this, when it is identical, okay, given enough time, let's say an ERV inserts itself 100 million years ago, and then you have an ERV that inserted itself 100,000 years ago. What ends up happening is over time, small mutations happen at these sites. All right, these are called the LTR. Called the LTR sites, long terminal repeat sites. Now, given the time, and the amount of change is can be expressed as a function of time. All right, so 100 million years ago, this would have had more time to mutate a little bit, versus something that was 100,000 years ago would have less time to mutate. Now we can go in and we can see that these retroviruses are inserted at some point in the family tree. All right. So let's say we share an ERV with a chimpanzee, and we also share that ERV with, let's say, a rhinoceros. Then we know that the ERVs were shared when we both had a common ancestor with the rhinoceros. All right. Now we find these throughout our genetic code. We can compare them to other genetic codes from other species, and we can see those same insertions as well. All right. Now, when you say it's given as a function of time, that's how we can build our tree up. Because we know that if there's more discontinuity between the two LTR sites, because this site is also identical to this site, because this right here also has to be identical to this right here. Again, back to the first point, they wouldn't successfully put themselves into the DNA strand without these being identical. These two right here being identical, and as well as these two being identical. But over time, like I said, small mutations happen. Once the ERV is into the genetic code and it's being passed down from generation to generation, these begin to mutate. So the further back we look, we should see more mutations with a comparable LTR site with something that we share, or something that a chimpanzee shares, or anything, really, anything that's out there all has a common ancestor. And this is how we know it. You know, if we look at the tree of life, and we have all these branches in the tree of life, okay, what you get is, if the ERV is shared up here, it will be present in all of these species, right? But if the ERV was shared here, it will only be present in these species, the species that are underneath. All right, and this is how we can track the genetic code. This is how we can use our genetic code and compare it to another species and say, how far back do we go? How far back do we share an ancestor with this other species? And it just so happens that not only are the ERVs that are present, do they not only match up with the family tree, but so does the LTR to LTR discontinuity. This is something that's independent of one another. Okay, they both use ERVs. All right, so they both have these LTR sites, these two LTR sites. But given time, like I said, these will change more over time. So if you have 100 million years later, there's going to be a greater discontinuity between this one than it will be at the 100,000 years. Let's say blue is the 100,000. So on this one, we might see a slight discontinuity, and on this one, we'd see much greater discontinuity. And discontinuity, in case you want to know what that means the difference between these pairs now, these pairs at this LTR site, compared to these pairs at this LTR site. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, this is something that has been scientifically observed, and the evidence greatly supports evolution when it comes to this. We don't need God to explain that, oh, we just put these here. We just so happen to place everything in the right place, because a lot of these ERVs don't offer any genetic advantage or any evolutionary advantage. They just get put into it by a retrovirus, by just the chance of that species catching a virus, that virus inserting itself successfully into the genetic code, and then that genetic code being passed down to all species that come afterwards. So this is direct proof that evidence does exist, and it's something that you would have to explain when, why, and how. Whoever put it there just put it there.
Well, God put it there. See, we have an explanation. You don't have one.
How and why?
I don't know how, but
No, we have the explanation. We see minor genetic changes all the time. So we do have an explanation for that.
All right, team. So look, let me tell you. You're talking to me about codes, communications, DNAs being altered by other things injecting themselves into there to create changes. This is some heavy-duty, complex shit going down. Communications between these tiny little, it's like a computer program that's building shit. That does
so
not
why?
possibly-
Okay, so why when this retrovirus? Hold on.
Yeah, don't throw me up. It's hard to spit this shit out, man. You know, I had a long day and it's coming. Let me just make my point. You talked a long time. Let me just tell you what I'm saying.
Okay.
This what you're showing me here is not possible in your universe, in your meaningless nothing no engineer universe. Big Bang, where rock popped out of nowhere for no reason and became alive and evolved into you and me just because, like that. That's not possible in your universe. This
Okay.
language, codes, language, communication. Those are that's meaning. That's
But
purpose.
some of these ERVs serve absolutely zero purpose. Why would a creator put it in there?
The DNA itself is a communicating and understanding how to build stuff. That's not. There's a communication.
Okay, so you're trying to take something that's man-made. Yeah, but you're trying to take something that's man-made. Like when we say that we have code and we have communications and we have ones and zeros. Okay, but
Codes
this
and communications exist in my universe, in our universe, the God, a conscious universe with thought, meaning, engineer, idea,
but you have
mind.
but we see this happening. But we see this happening right now. We see this happening in our current species. We see ERVs that have been put into our. I believe the sickle cell anemia is a consequence of an ERV that was inserted. I believe it was. I don't know for a fact. I gotta go back and look, but I believe that's what I read when I was doing my research on this. I believe that the sickle cell anemia was a ERV that was the result of an ERV that was put into our genetic code.
Human beings can end up with sickle cell anemia, but they're never going to turn into frogs.
That's not the point. That's not the point. So no. The point is to show that we share non-human, okay, like DNA that was inserted into genetic code. Okay, so let's say that you and I, let's say just for a second, I'm not asking you to believe, but let's say just for a second that we are related to chimpanzees. How would we prove that? That, like, if I asked you what would make you believe, and you would say something like, what would make you to believe that me and a chimpanzee shared a common ancestor at some point? What evidence would you need to understand that or believe that? Make sure he's still there because I don't hear him.
I'm here.
Okay.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, okay, no. If an evolutionary scientist walked up to you today and says, "What would you need to believe that this is true?" What would you need, Vlad? It's a real simple question.
I'd want to see chimps maybe riding on horses and start attacking.
That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with evolution. Chimps riding on horses. That's a video. That's a movie.
Human-like. How come the chimps are stuck in the animal kingdom and we're over here? Maybe
because it's a result of evolution. We evolved in a way that gave us evolutionary benefits. They've evolved in a way that gave them evolutionary benefits. Have you ever seen how strong a chimp is? Have you ever tried to climb a tree like a chimp? Have you ever seen how their feet are shaped? Everything that is that. And yeah, look, they look very close to humans. When compared to the rest of the animals, they look really, really close to humans, but they're not identical. Both of us came from a common ancestor. We use ERVs to prove this. We share ERVs with chimpanzees. There's no other way for us to share these without it being inserted into the genetic code of a previous ancestor of us and a chimpanzee. So that's the first way that we know that we come from chimpanzees. Not from chimpanzees, but that we share a common ancestor. Now, as time progressed, our mutations at our LTR sites, which is what I was telling you earlier, the sites where that are circled here, the evolution of our LTR sites will be different or not the evolution, but the genetic mutations that occur at our LTR sites will be different than the genetic mutations that occur at the chimpanzees' LTR sites. Because while we do come from a common ancestor, since becoming chimpanzee and human, we no longer share that common lineage. Like my children will only have the genetic code that's shared from our common ancestor. Chimpanzees' children will only have the genetic code that's shared from, well, chimpanzees and their genetic ancestor. So we will have differences between us and chimpanzees. And you can see these differences when you look at their muscle structure, their bone structure, their facial features, their hands, their feet. Everything about them is giving them the best opportunity to survive, thrive, and reproduce. That's why it's shaped like that, and that's why we're shaped like that, like we are.
Well, I don't see enough of there should be a lot more transitional forms that we see in the world, but we just don't.
We
see
are
that.
all in the process of transitioning, Vlad. We're all in the process of transitioning.
Characters are complete within themselves. You see, there's giraffes, there's zebra, there's monkey, there's human. There's not like a half frog, half rabbit.
That's not what you should expect to see. That's a hybrid, not a mutation. That's a hybrid, not a mutation.
Well, at some point, it all started from a rock that came from nowhere, that became alive for a reason, and then it's like a bacteria that becomes a fish. So we all come from fish, and then the fish kind of becomes like a salamander, and then a lizard. So so you've got to have you got to have a salamander that's turning into something like a rat, and then to the monkey, and then to the human. So
well, pretty much.
Where's the half salamander, half rat?
But that's not what you would expect to see. What you would expect to see is hold on. Let me answer you, Vlad. Let me answer you. Give me a second to answer. You wouldn't see a half salamander, half rat. What you would see is a salamander that is genetically different than its parents. Genetically different than the generation before it, and those salamanders will be genetically different than the generation before them, even ever so slightly. But you need millions of years to turn a salamander into something different.
Let's say it takes 100 million years. So go at 50 million years. Let's stop at 50 million years. You got to have a half salamander, half rat.
No, okay? That's not how it works.
Of course. So at what point does the salamander become the rat?
Well, a salamander doesn't become a rat. A salamander becomes whatever it's going to become, whatever it becomes, until one salamander. Well, hold on. Hear me out. So, let's say fish, right? We have different types of fish. You ever heard of a mud skipper?
Yeah.
Okay, a mud skipper is a fish that's currently involved in transitioning. Now, you're not going to find a half mud skipper or a fish that's half salamander, half fish, and that's the mud skipper. No, that's not what you're looking at. You're looking at something that genetically began to mutate many generations ago, and every time there's a mutation, if the mutation is beneficial and it provides that particular, genetically different salamander or fish to become more suited to its environment so that it can breed better and it can pass on its genes better, then it's going to keep that mutation. Now, if the mutation occurs that causes it to produce less mud skippers or give it a less of an advantage in its environment, then that's actually going to kill out that genetic mutation. So that's why, go ahead.
Dies with the fish because all the food was in the ocean. Any fish that crawled out onto land wouldn't be able to get any food there. So the story stops right there. All the food, all the food in the ocean.
Well,
fish,
go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
Flopping around on the sand of this. Well, let me hear you answer that, team. Don't pass me off to him because you and me started. What food is there for a fish on land?
Whatever they can eat. If they can get nutrients from it. Okay, so let's say there's multiple nutrient food on land and no fish can get to it because fish live in water. Now let's say there's a genetic mutation that allows the fish to get out of the water and move onto the land. Well, what may happen is if he finds this plethora of food on the land, then that fish will become more land adapted. The genetic mutations that give that fish the ability to walk out on the land will allow that fish to thrive on land. And then because it has a new food source, it doesn't need to compete with food sources.
I got your ancestor right here. One day this is gonna be it's gonna be one day, man, right?
He's a handsome motherfucker, is what he is. Go ahead, Tony.
So, the transition of life from under the water to on land starts with plants, right? There are plants that are being eaten under the water, and there are those that decide, well, actually, if we move onto land, nothing can eat us up here. And they were actually not followed by salamanders; they were followed by insects and arthropods. Stuff like lobsters or lobsters or prawns or whatever turned into transitioned into beetles or spiders and scorpions and all that sort of stuff. I am grotesquely oversimplifying here, but that was the transition from land. And they went up there because there was less competition, and look, nobody's eating these plants that are up here. So there's a constant backwards and forwards. I just want to address something that Vlad said about existence being pointless if there is no God, and I can't disagree more strongly. Vlad, I don't think that there is a God, but to me, that doesn't make my existence, nor does it make your existence any less important. You seem like a funny, essentially kind person with a lot going for you. And whether or not God exists, that's true. You should have strength in yourself. You're not dependent on God for the stuff that you have. You can be grateful to him, but you deserve credit for who you are and what you do. And you deserve blame for who you are and what you do. When I do something wrong, and we never really got to morality, but I do believe in good and evil, and I can argue how I get there from an evolutionary perspective, actually. But regardless of that, you're not insignificant. You're a person. And it doesn't matter how big the earth is. It doesn't matter what shape the earth is. It doesn't matter whether I think God exists or not. You're actually something of a miracle, right? You're your own unique person, different from every other person who has ever existed and every other person who will ever exist. And you're bringing.
All right, Tony, that's a nice story, but reality is, someone stronger than me could smash me over the head and just take everything I have, and that would be fine in your universe.
No, it wouldn't, because
what? Why? It's mean you have a meaningless universe. You guys
so
do.
Can I ask?
No such thing as right and wrong. That's you can't prove that to me. It's only survival of the fittest. Only what makes me happy, what benefits me, is all that matters. You can tell me nice sentimental stories, but they have no relevance. They're
survival of the fittest is a bit of a misnomer, though, Vlad. That's not really what evolution says. What evolution says is it's the genetic traits that give a species a better chance to survive, thrive, and reproduce.
There's no right and wrong. There's no right and wrong in your universe. There's no such thing as right and wrong. It doesn't exist.
That's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, sure it is. No. It's true. No such thing as right and wrong. You could do what thou wilt. That's your universe. Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. What's wrong if
stop making statements for me, and then shouting down when I try to explain. Right? You're just making assertions, and then when I say no, that's wrong, you don't give me an opportunity to explain why it's wrong. You just repeat your assertion. Okay. Humans are social animals. The only reason we survive in an environment where there are lions and bears is because we work as a group. Therefore, individuals that esteem themselves above the group are a threat to the group. The group, therefore, has to have mechanisms for making sure that individuals do not damage group cohesion. Antisocial behavior, theft, murder, rape, are therefore counter-evolutionary. And every society, not just Christian societies, every human society has laws against them, right? It's not just that, only people with access to the Old Testament think that murder is a bad thing. Everybody understands that if I let somebody come along and bash Vlad's head in and steal his stuff, well, what's to stop that person from coming and bashing my head in and stealing my stuff? Nothing.
Yeah.
In fact,
Russia, hold on, Tony, I got you. In communist Russia, they had a law. You could go into the Christian churches and impale the priests on the spears. You could chop off their heads. You could tie chains, the door shut, and set the church on fire with women and children inside. That was fine and legal in communist Russia, atheist communist Russia under Stalin. They killed 100 million. So there's your law. Okay, it's all relative. You have a meaningless universe. There's no right and wrong in your universe. It's just whatever majority rules. In one day it might be good for you, another day it might be bad for you, Tony.
Okay, so let me counter this. So the existence of evil atheists does not mean that all atheists are evil or immoral. Just like the existence of pedophile Christians does not make all Christians pedophiles. I hadn't finished speaking. Are you aware of what the Cathar Crusade is, or the Albigensian Crusade?
When did Jesus say go kill anybody? When did he say that, Tony?
I don't know the exact. Hold on.
I don't know that he ever did say that, but other people who
presume guys are acting out of character. They're not Christians. You don't kill. He said, "Love your enemy." Okay, anyone who's going on a crusade and killing is not acting according to Christian character. But when Stalin kills the Christians, he's just doing what is normal within his universe. You can be nice to them.
I have a question for you. So you believe in eternal life, right? You believe that the soul persists after death. So you believe that a person who dies gets judged and they either go to heaven or hell. So why is killing people bad? You haven't ended their existence. You're merely sending them to the next phase of their existence. In the Albigensian Crusade, there is a reputed story of they captured a city that had an Albigensian population living alongside a Catholic population, and the local bishop said, "Kill them all. God will know His own." Now you cannot tell me that he's making an immoral decision, because all that's happening, he's not actually inflicting any harm. You don't believe that death is real. You believe that there's life after death. So actually killing the physical body does nothing to the soul, does nothing to the spirit, and has no adverse moral consequences.
I got you, Tony. Number one, we have a law. It says, "Thou shalt not kill." Now you're saying, well, what does it matter? You got an eternal soul anyway. Well, here's what it matters. Orthodox Christians were against the death penalty. Even if someone is a horrible murderer, name it, you don't kill a person, because then you've taken away their chance to repent. So it can't harm the soul. A person who is sentenced to death, he may have repented and gotten right with God and have his sins.
Didn't the Catholic Church during the Inquisition, didn't they order the deaths of pretty much anybody that didn't follow the Catholic? They
did that for being out of character. Catholics kill a lot of Orthodox Christians too. Catholics aren't really considered Orthodox Christian. It's kind of a schism.
So are you using the term Orthodox Christian and it's technically correct? So do you have a particular brand of orthodoxy, like Greek or Russian, or are you just sort of orthodox in a more generic sense?
More generic sense.
Okay, so So now here's the thing. Let's take if I have a decision, right, I can do something good that harms the church, right? Or I can do something bad that protects the church. Now, true, I have sinned, but in protecting the church, I have allowed the church to do much more good than the sin that I have committed. So you often find people who are members of churches saying, well, okay, this is evil. This is against God's teachings. I understand that. But in this circumstance, doing the right thing would be worse in the long run. Doing the right thing would be bad for the church and therefore bad overall, more evil than the evil thing I'm considering doing. Do you see how that can lead to crusades or protecting pedophiles or that sort of stuff? Those people are making that calculation. Yes, this is wrong, but I need to protect the church because I want to protect God's mission. Can you see that?
Hey, we got about 5 more minutes of discussion, guys. Okay, and we're going to end it there.
The Orthodox Christians, which was the Eastern Orthodox Christians, you name it, Russian, Serbian, Greek, Aramaic, they never partake in the Crusades. We stayed on the land God gave us. We didn't go out and conquer and force church ideology down people's necks. So the Catholics that did that was wrong. But you got to keep in mind that the crusade was to defend. You talk about defending. You must know that the Muslims were coming in to convert and convert by force, kill. So they have to defend themselves too. So it's a rough. It's a
historic. That is not historically accurate. In fact, I
read the whole Quran. I read the whole Quran, and they do say kill, crucify, cut off hands and feet, go to where the pagans are and slay them. I know all about the Quran. I read the book.
But I also, if you've read a translation of the Quran, unless you've read it in Arabic, you haven't read the Quran. The Quran is in Arabic, and anything that is not in Arabic is
Tony, we know all about the Muslims.
I have also read the Quran or a translation of the Quran. Allow me to correct myself there. And there are, just like there are in the Bible, passages that you can interpret as encouraging violence and passages that you can interpret as encouraging peace. Muhammad talks at one point about the peoples of the book and being tolerant with them. And then he talks later on about, how he had previously espoused tolerance of Christians and Jews, but now he thought that they needed to be purged, that infidels needed to be violently purged. You can pick and choose the elements that you want. That is actually the hallmark of any successful.
Nothing like that. He said, "Love." Jesus said, "Love your." Muhammad, Allah say that.
Yes, in the Old Testament, God killed every man, woman, and child on the planet except for Noah and his offspring and their wives, because he didn't like the way that they were behaving. He instructed the Israelites to kill the adult males and enslave the females of rival tribes. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah in order to.
Tony drools when he talks bad about the God of the Bible, but he makes excuses for Allah. You notice that? It's funny how you.
I'm not. So I don't recall making any excuses for Islam.
Yeah, you said, you got to read the right translation, and they're not so bad. But man, you start drooling when you talk about God in the Old Testament is.
That's not what I was saying. I was saying that, like Christianity, the Quran has bits in it that can be used to justify the most egregious acts of violence and cruelty.
Christianity doesn't tell anyone to commit acts of violence and cruelty.
But
Christianity loves the enemy.
But there are plenty of Christians who do horrible things to other people.
They're acting out of character then, but not like the atheist. Atheists kill
but-
whatever he wants. If atheists kill
No.
someone or someone, then it's all the same.
No, the atheist has this. The atheist. Can I please address? No, if the atheist goes around killing people,
Why didn't Vlad? Why is there a disproportionate amount of atheists to theists in prison?
There's this amount of
A disproportionate amount. Yes, I believe the American prison system only has about 1.5% to 2% of its population is atheists. The other 98% of the prisoners believe in a God. Why is that?
It's a good question, team. I think in America they have Protestantism, which teaches once saved, always saved. And I've gone down that route myself. I was Protestant for 20 years. And for a guy who has criminal tendencies, which I can relate to, if it wasn't for me, well, I'll leave that alone. You can tell yourself, I'm going to heaven anyway. I believe in Jesus. I'm saved by the blood of Christ. God will forgive me. I can go ahead and just jack this guy right now.
So if it's a matter of that, then okay, then the only way to explain the disproportionality in prison is to say either atheists just don't get caught or atheists have less criminal behavior. Now, for someone who's claiming, hold on, someone who's claiming that morals and good and evil and all that is a consequence of religion and a creator who creates the difference between good and evil, as per the book of Genesis, the knowledge of good and evil resides in the apple in the tree, and Satan gets Eve to go for the apple in the tree. The whole reason they go for the apple in the tree is to attain the knowledge of good and evil. That's the knowledge that God didn't want us to have. Therefore, God created the knowledge of good and evil. Would you agree with that?
Well, you went down two different roads right there.
No. What I'm saying is that an atheist like myself who doesn't, why are atheists not imprisoned as much as Christians, Muslims, and theists in general? Why is there such a disproportion between that when there's not that same disproportion in the population?
In 20 or 30 years, that might change, team, because more and more people are becoming atheists.
Why is it now? Now?
Because people have gone. It was a tradition in America to go to church, and there was a family. You go to church with your family. That's starting to die out. And so also there's a false teaching in Protestantism: once saved, always saved. So any criminal can justify his action and say, "Well, I'm forgiven. I'm gonna go to heaven anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and do this." Whereas, they're acting out of character. It's not orthodox, by the way. They don't commune. We don't let them commune with us. It's a false teaching. Once saved, always saved is a heresy. That's not what we believe. But with the atheists, though, you can be a nice guy or you don't have to be. There's really no right or wrong.
But I think you're missing the point of the question. Oh, go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
So, atheists don't believe in an afterlife. So they know that once they get killed, that's it. Game over. So atheists prefer activities that minimize their chances of getting killed, right? Crime involves a lot of risk of getting shot by police or shot by other criminals or what have you, right? So yes, an atheist can say, okay, well, there's no problem with me going around braining other people and stealing their stuff, except that there are police officers and other civilians who will incarcerate me or perhaps kill me if I do this indiscriminately. So I don't behave in a way that's going to get me classed as antisocial because I am aware of the consequences of what's going on. So it is the fact that we don't believe in an afterlife actually encourages us in a number of ways. We know that this is the only life we have. This is the only chance we're going to get. We're not going to have forever to make up for our mistakes. We're not going to have forever to, to fix things. This is it. We either get it right now or we screw it up. And and actually, I think from my personal experience, that encourages me to be more moral, to be more ethical about what's going on, because there's no happily ever after during which people are going to be compensated for.
Hey,
I have to do as much good as I can now.
Vlad, I got a question to ask for you. In the Orthodox belief, since that seems to be what you believe in, what is the criteria for one to get into heaven?
You have to. It's called. Well, you attain theosis, to become a temple of the living God, to be indwelt with the Holy Spirit, and to be a saint. If you're a saint,
Yeah, but that's a lot of sideways talk. What does it require for you to get into heaven? Like specifically, try to give me a specific way that you intend on getting into heaven.
Well, you have to. They call it fighting unseen warfare. So you have you're a person. You have these tendencies in your flesh to sin. So you fight against not other people and other countries and go out there gonna do a crusade against others. You fight against yourself.
Can a person who's been to prison make it to heaven ever?
Yeah.
A murderer. Let's say somebody goes out, he kills 20 people. He truly feels sorry for himself, right? Feels sorry for the victims. He has an extreme, regret. He turns to God. Can that man get to heaven?
The way Orthodox do that is this: you have a confession and communion. So in Orthodoxy, we have a confession. That murderer would confess their sin, and generally you're cut off from the communion, which is the body and blood of Christ, for a number of years. For murder, it's a lot worse than, let's say, if you steal something. If you kill someone, it can be up to 25 years, including women who.
Let's leave it at murder. Let's leave it at murder to make it the most extreme form. How would a murderer get to heaven in your worldview or your religious view?
They could possibly be their priest could impose a penance on them, excommunicated for a number of years, 20 years, and that's time for them to repent and to be sorry for what they did.
Okay. So the reason why I asked that is because you just proved Tony's point. Tony says that a person who has a strong religious belief is more inclined to do things that would be morally objectable, because he can take a 20-year hiatus and be excommunicated and given a chance to repent for his sins, and he's still going to heaven. So therefore, there is an out. There is an out where we don't believe that. We believe that for those of us that don't believe that are not theists or don't believe in theism, we believe that it's morally objectionable to do things like murder. We don't believe in the afterlife.
Hold on, slow down. But look, that wouldn't really be Orthodox to say, well, if I whack this guy, I'll get 20 years excommunication. I'll be fine. You, as an Orthodox Christian, over time, your heart becomes softer. You become more and more saint-like. You wouldn't whack somebody because you love God and you love people. You love your neighbor. You love yourself. You love God. You love your neighbors. You love yourself. So murder can be the lion will lay down with the lamb. Who was once a murderer, moral can be a moral person, who doesn't kill and married to one woman who might have been a cheater at one point. Your heart changes. You become changed from the inside out. That's the difference. It's not like a business. It's not like a business deal, but I might explain it wrong.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Okay.
And we'll end it at that. We'll end it at this. Go ahead.
So I had a couple of questions. One.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it okay to kill somebody who poses a threat to other people? So I see somebody who's about to shoot a bunch of people. I have a gun. I shoot that person. Is that acceptable according to you, Vlad?
Yeah, I'm not an expert. I'm not a priest, but I believe this is correct. I might be wrong. If someone, I'll tell you. If you're supposed to do everything you can to avoid killing a person. But if someone's about to pointing a gun at an innocent person or family member, you should try to stop them. If the only way to do it is to shoot them, you gotta, maybe don't shoot them right in the head. You gotta try not to kill that person. You definitely want to stop them from harming anybody. Even if
Okay, so
Yeah.
follow-up question. Suppose somebody who is otherwise blameless is going to do something that is just going to completely discredit and bankrupt and utterly destroy the Orthodox Church. Would it be ethical for an Orthodox Christian to kill that person? And might the Orthodox Christian think, even if I go to hell, that's a price worth paying?
No, if someone wants to do something to completely discredit, you said, and do what to the church? So an enemy of
discredit. Yes, well, they're not acting maliciously. They just possess information that is going to badly damage the church. Might somebody?
No, nope. You're not supposed to kill someone like that, Tony.
Yes, but might somebody make the calculation? Even if I go to hell as a result of that, it's worth the price. Because of my loyalty to this organization, to this cause, I'm willing to go to hell in order to protect the organization and the cause. Even though I will suffer, at least the organization and the cause won't.
No, I mean, that would be pride. If you started believing that way, you're already in sin. Like you're gonna save the church. It's God's church. He established it. He'll take it out when it's time. Any one person to be in a situation like that, they're already delusional. It's kind of a situation that wouldn't happen. But if someone was in that situation, they're already being prideful to believe they can do something to save God's church. And then if they whack somebody, they're double wrong. And
All right. So
yeah.
I'd like to end it there because we've been going for 3 hours now, and yeah, that was a good discussion. Thank you, Vlad, for being on. I don't have a lot of different super chats to read, so we'll be able to make them through the super chats or through the super chat list pretty quick. And a lot of these are directed to you, so you can answer them if you feel like it. Tony, thank you also, man. Thank you so much for doing this last minute. So that was really awesome of you, man. And if you're not subbed to Tony out there, PhD Tony, go sub right now. He deserves
get some more water.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you say some questions for me in the chats?
Yeah, there'll be some questions for you.
All right, I'll come back.
Yeah, go ahead and come back. I'll read off the ones that don't have anything for you right now. Irish Demon for $7.99 Aussie, who, like I said earlier, had his first period today.
Oh, now he's okay. I thought he was sick.
No, he's sick. He had his first period today, and he didn't know how to handle it. So, yeah,
guy.
We'll get him back here next Sunday for you.
You're to death, man.
But Irish Demon says for $7.99 Aussie dollars, says my protege has usurped my masterful position in debating. Also, I have taught him all I know, and thus the student becomes the master. Bader. Which I think he's talking about you, Tony. The student has become the master, but I think it's the other way around. I think the student's getting a huge chip on his shoulder and needs to be put down. Also, Mr. Unite for the Children for $5. PhD Tony is debating the missing man formation tonight. With the missing chair representing the absent comrade, Irish Demon. Man, I can't tell you, man, how much I appreciate you doing this. When Vlad said he was going to come, because I wasn't hearing from him at first, when he said he was going to come, if I didn't have anybody else, I was just going to take it myself, which it wouldn't have been hard for me. This was, pretty easy to answer on most things. But as you said, I really like giving other people these opportunities that don't necessarily get the same exposure or the same opportunities on other channels. And, you're somebody who's extremely good at what you do. You're well presented, you're well spoken. Everything about it comes off very informative. I learn stuff every time I watch debates like this, especially from you, Tony. You do a hell of a job. So I'm just glad to have you here. I'm glad you were the one that stepped in to teach something and not me.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
and thank you.
I'm also very happy to have saved the chat from you exposing yourself more. You're welcome, chat.
Yes, and I believe, now that I think about it, I believe it's telomeres. The telomeres are the
That's a word I've heard before. Yes.
hold on, let me see. I'm gonna look it up because I think they're called. It just came to me as I was listening to you talk. It just came to me. I think it is. I think they are called telomeres. Okay, I couldn't think of the name when I was doing my, insightful artwork, but I think it was telomeres is what they're called. But correct me in the chat if you're a biologist or know more than what the fuck I'm talking about. Next for $20. Thank you, Nex. I appreciate it. And Nex has been awesome lately. Awesome. Fucking comes onto the gaming streams and throws a super chat at me just for playing video games, and that's fucking awesome, Nex. I appreciate it and appreciate everything you do. Wouldn't make much of a difference whether he's connected or not, and that was when you disconnected, Vlad. Nex was saying wouldn't make much of a difference if you were connected or not. Basic trigonometry for 2 pounds. Vlad, fetch the wife. The brains of the operation. Is your wife smarter than you, Vlad? Let me ask the question. She can't hear us, I'm sure, so you can answer freely.
No, nobody's smarter than me.
Ha! On Earth, what percentile do you think you stay on Earth? You think you're in the top 1%? Like, not even top 1%, the top one. I'll say the top 1% of America. Do you think you're in the top 1% of America?
Way up there. Way up there.
You're smarter. You're one of the 3.3 million smart people in America. Okay. I don't believe you, but we can have that discussion for another day. What's the internal angles of a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1?
I'll tell you later.
No, you can't say you're in the top 1% of people of intelligence in the United States and then tell me you're going to tell me later. What is the internal angles of I've asked you this question at least 30 times, Vlad. What's the internal angle of a equilateral triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1?
What's Dostoevsky's first book?
I don't claim to be a top 1% of the people, nor do I claim to know that.
Your stuff, I know mine.
All right, well, I'm going to tell you the answer is 60, 60, 60, since you don't know it. And that should push you up, at least by your calculations, into the top 0.5% of the United States in intelligence. And I'm going to ask you the question again and see if you learned anything. Small Time Art for $5 says, found some vids of that Playmate Tessie chick. Looks like 2 gym socks taped to her chest. She's in no position to judge anyone with those fried eggs. Oh, man. No way. Oh, man, you might have to share those with me, Small Time Art, so I can go see what you're talking about. Angel Garay for $4.99 just to support your channel, but this guy, Rad, needs to go back to school. Special school. What's your highest education, Vlad? Where did you graduate high school?
He went to school, and this guy went to school and learned he came from a monkey. He evolved from a monkey, and he learned that God isn't real. We learned a bunch of nonsense in school.
I think that's a straw man, though. I think that's a straw man because that's not the argument that's posted. The argument that's presented. The argument that's presented is that we share a common ancestor with a monkey, which we do. In fact, we are pretty much just evolved monkeys. I believe we're still in the primate. Yeah, we're still primates. Of course, we're still primates, but we're still primates, just like monkeys, apes, and all of them.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Let's see. We have blaming science for 10 sex. Oh man, I'm gonna have to bring back the sex dance. And I didn't get a message with that, so blaming science, if you're still around, you can tag me in the chat right now, and if I see your message, I'll read it out. I believe for that, I don't think they let you put in a message, so by all means, leave me a message, I'll read it out. Number 10 for $5 says, hope you're having a good night thus far. Figure I'd toss you some love. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, number 10. You're number 1 in my heart and probably number 2 in Vlad's. since I'm number one, unfortunately for you. Love Rules. Oh, Love Rules, you're the other person. For $10, no message. Love Rules, if you're still out there, please. I said earlier that I would read out anything you had to say, but I didn't see you tag me. You might have, and I might have missed it. If you did tag me, just go ahead and re-tag me and tell me any message you want to say, and I'll read that message out for your super chat. Thank you so much for that super chat, though. The Spirit 84, who was absolutely very, very generous tonight. Thank you so much, Spirit 84. Before we had evidence of black holes, we focused on if the universe didn't need them to exist. The same thought could be used for the God existence. So, Tony, I ask, does the universe need God to not exist?
No, it doesn't. So the universe can exist without a God. It doesn't require a God for existence to be. It's a binary state. It just happens to be in the existence setting. If it weren't, we wouldn't be here to worry about it. So, it's kind of pointless. And Vlad also misstated something else when he said that, everything came from nothing. That is not an accurate statement of our understanding. But basically, there must always have been material and energy that is in this universe. It was just not distributed in the way that we see it now. And we don't have any way of determining.
But you need a builder. You're lacking one. You need a mind.
No,
Why?
You don't need a builder.
Pop out by itself, man. I can't believe anyone believes this stuff. Okay, it's unbelievable to me.
I can't believe anybody disqualifies it so effortlessly like you do without looking into it and seeing what we're talking about.
It's just so ridiculous that you guys believe what you believe, that everything just built itself for no reason, just because it just all kind of came together and worked out.
Well, we don't have for no reason. The reasoning is that the energy and matter were there and it just happened.
You need an engineer, a thinking engineer, to put it together so it works. No. You guys don't have that. But without that, you got nothing. You got a lava lamp, blobby, nothing universe.
Okay, so Vlad, my question to you is this right here. Vlad, my question to you is this right here. When we create a petri dish, right, or petri plate, and it has different levels of antibiotics, different layers of levels of antibiotics, and we put some bacteria in it, okay? And the bacteria grows through the antibiotics that it can handle, and it reaches a barrier, which is the next layer of, let's say, 10 times that antibiotics concentration. It can no longer get past that barrier. But eventually, given enough time, one or two of the bacteria will evolve to have a stronger resistance to the antibiotics, and then can thrive in the next layer of the petri plate, okay? What mechanism, what thought process is there behind the evolution of that bacteria? And it evolves in real time here.
Hey, buddy, God will tell you, if you want to do that experiment, get your own bacteria.
That's a nonsensical answer.
No, God, you're using bacteria God made. You get your own bacteria if you want to play around with those experiments. Those bacteria is made by God.
Right. But Vlad, I think you're missing my example here. I can say that. Let's say that God. Hold on. Let's say that God did.
You're using God made.
Okay. Let's say we put something that God made in there. Did God program evolution into the being, into the bacteria?
That doesn't matter one way or the other.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does.
God made the bacteria.
Okay, but when the bacteria gets to that layer, if only the bacteria existed that God made, then it would stop at the layer where there was only 1 times the antibiotic. It wouldn't venture over. It would never, ever, ever venture over into the 10 times strength antibiotics, because the 10 times strength is too strong for the bacteria to live. What happens is a small section evolves. One bacteria evolves that can live in that area, that not only can live, but like Tony said earlier, now has an untouched food source, because all the other bacteria stops at the 10 times layer. It can't go on. It has to evolve. It has to have a random mutation that allows for it to survive, thrive, and reproduce within the stronger antibiotics, within the antibiotics that have a higher concentration.
But where'd your bacteria come from? Where'd it come from?
But you're missing the point, though. Why did the bacteria evolve into something different that could survive in an area where the bacteria that God created cannot?
Buddy, you want to go down one road, but you're not starting on the right place.
That's a non-answer.
No, well, you can't ask me what you're asking, because you'd have to come up with your own bacteria. Where you get those bacteria?
I don't have to come up with my own bacteria, because here's the thing.
Okay,
so let me ask you a question then, Vlad. Is God sitting there watching the bacteria going and go, okay, since they stopped at this layer where the antibiotics changed to a greater strength, maybe I should let this one right here in there and give him the ability to reproduce within there? Is he watching it, or is it something that randomly happens? And if God programmed the randomness to happen, is that not proof of evolution? Does that not fulfill the needs for you to believe in both evolution and a deity?
Look, the dodo birds with the longer
That's
beaks.
nonsensical. It's non sequitur.
I answer your question. The ones with the longer beaks could reach the seed, and the ones with the shorter beaks died out. Okay, so all the dodo birds that Darwin observed on the island the beaks look different from the ones that were on land, because the way they get the food was different. The ones with the beaks, one way. Okay, so same for the bacteria, but that bird is never going to become like
right. But Vlad, the bacteria is genetically different. The bacteria that makes it to the 10 times antibiotic layer is genetically different than the bacteria that could only make it through the 1 times antibiotic layer. Okay, because once it hits a layer where it can no longer go forward, it can't go forward until it evolves.
Well, show me when that bacteria becomes a fish, and a salamander and a lizard. Maybe I'll.
That's non sequitur. That's a non sequitur.
But it's still a bacteria. You need it to become a fish. You need the bacteria.
No, it doesn't. No, because it's genetically different. It's genetically different than the bacteria in the 1 times antibiotic layer.
First of all, you don't know where you can't tell me where you got the bacteria from. I can tell you God made it. You have no answer. Number 2, you need that bacteria to turn into a human being eventually, and that's never going to happen.
That's no the Okay. Well,
we all have a
you have to understand.
You didn't just come from the monster didn't fall out of the sky. Eventually, you came from a rock that became alive for no reason. That's where you came from. You didn't have a common ancestor.
Well, I already told you it's not for no reason. Go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
All right. So, in order, what you seem to be overlooking is that is basically molecular chemistry. So you can design proteins, amino acids, that when they're exposed to other carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, will rearrange those carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen to make copies of themselves. As soon as you've got that, and this is something that happens spontaneously. Now, the same you can observe the same things in minerals. You get self-replicating crystals or self-replicating structures in rocks. Once they start this self-replication process, it continues until something causes it to change. So, the argument, you've got a self-replicating amino acid. It doesn't take too much more work to get that to the point where it is processing, where it erects a cell structure it acquires a cell structure to protect itself from interference. The ones that didn't no longer exist. It's the one with the shell structure that is going to propagate. And again, humans are not descended from bacteria. The bacteria that are around today and humans are both descended from the same organisms. That's a different thing, and you persist in getting it wrong.
Where'd the humans come from? Where'd the monkey come? Where'd the common ancestor monkey come from before he was a monkey? Where was it?
Old world apes, I believe.
And then where before that? Where'd they come from? What were they?
Or maybe not
that?
old world, maybe great apes. I'm sorry, old world apes. Maybe they may share the common ancestor with the monkey.
What was it before that?
I don't care what it was before that.
No, you have to care. Eventually, you have to care. Eventually,
no, I don't. No, I don't. No,
you don't get to
no, I don't.
You don't get to just have the monkey. It's easy. That monkey didn't fall out of the sky, Tony. Monkey didn't fall out of the sky. you got to go back to the goldfish or an alligator.
What is the?
Too easy. What? It's not that easy, buddy. The monkey didn't fall out of the sky, guys.
Hold on, Vlad. Hold on. Let Tony ask him. Go ahead, Tony.
Crystal. You got to start with a little crystal, and that's got to turn into a.
Hold on. Let Tony talk. Go ahead, Tony.
Ridiculous story, man. You need a build. You need God to make the animals and everything.
No, you don't. That's from your perspective. Yeah, from your perspective, you do. For your story to be logically consistent, yeah, you're right. For your story, though, but that's not reality.
Show me the crystal turning into human being. Show me that.
Well, hold on. Let Tony.
You're building a robot like a human. You can't show me that it just happens, but like a robot just happens because the wind blew in some metal in a junkyard. You need some wind to blow in a junkyard for 1 billion years, and you think you're gonna get some Transformers team?
No, that's not what any of us say. That's not what any of us say. No, that's not what we believe.
Yeah, send a tsunami into endless amount of junkyards, endless amount of tsunamis, and you need to have a legion of Transformers. That's what you guys believe.
All right. Right? So Tony, you were about to say something, right? Go ahead.
Can you? Yes. If there's going to be a pause in the tsunami of bullshit that is that is going to be vomited into this.
That's what you guys.
No, we don't.
You do.
You can make that. Can you shut up?
Hold on, Vlad. Let Tony talk. Go ahead, Tony.
Shut up long enough for me to say something. I don't need to be able to name the common ancestor between myself and a chimpanzee to know that one exists. I don't need to be able to name the common ancestor between me and a giraffe to know that one exists. I don't need to be able to name the common ancestor between me and a bacteria to know that one exists. Right? Their existence can be inferred from the fact that we share so much DNA. It's not rocket science, and the fact you can't show me it happening. Well, actually, you'd be surprised at the stuff we don't show you happening that happens anyway. Actually, Vlad, as much as you are a human being, you're not so important that reality has to run everything by you before it will work. You're never going to be able to see planetary evolution or life developing on planets and evolving from single-celled organisms to multicellular organisms over the course of billions of years, because you're not going to live billions of years. So you may want to see that. Stiff shit. You can't. And I keep on saying this. You
don't get to see God. You want to see him, but you can't show me the red apple you're thinking of right now.
No, I don't want to see God. I've no interest.
Yeah,
I've no interest in God as a cunt.
Story makes sense. We have a story that makes sense. Your story makes no sense, guys.
No.
Not possible.
You can assert that. You're just wrong, like you've been wrong every time you've made an assessment.
I'm 100% right. You guys are 100%
Yeah.
wrong.
You're
Wrong.
100% right because you say you're 100% right.
Yeah.
That's
don't get
not
a
an
bill-
argument. That's
you don't
not an
get a
argument.
building-
That's
You
not
don't
a.
get a building an architect. How many buildings popped up without the
I think
architect? Tony?
I think what
Tell
you
me
want to
one
say,
building-
Vlad,
tell me one
is
building that popped up with an architect.
I think you want to say that your arguments are 100% consistent with your belief, not with
That's what-
everybody else's belief, not with
I
the way
can
science
actually
works.
come
Tony said he's right. Tony said he's right, and I'm
I
Well-
can actually come up with multiple dwellings that have been used by humans.
Do you believe a building can
Will
come
you shut up? I'm
Hold on,
answering
hold
your
on, hold
question.
on. Yeah, go ahead.
Will you
Show
stop
me a
interrupting
building
my
without-
Hold on,
I am
Vlad.
about
Hold on.
to answer your question. I am about to answer your question. I'm about to answer your question. Do you think you can shut your yap long enough to hear the answer?
But you never answer. You're not answering my question.
No, because you keep on interrupting me. Right? I am frustrated because every time I try and answer this stupid question, you just try and interrupt and repeat it.
But you're
Okay.
getting mad because you can't answer the question.
No, I can answer the question. I'm getting mad because you are interrupting me. Kindly, if you are Christian, how is this a Christian act? You are being rude. You're just being a dick at the moment. No, you're just being a dick.
Alan,
Stop
how-
being a dick.
how did
being an
building come
example.
about? I asked you. Why are you freaking out? I asked you a simple question and you're yelling at me. I asked you,
Yeah.
how did a building come about without an architect? And you're freaking out. That's all I asked you.
There are cathedrals in Ethiopia that are carved out of single rocks.
Right. And how did it happen
There
all
are
by itself? Or did a mind do that?
No, but the building of the rock occurred without any human intervention. The rock wasn't built by a human. They
Wow.
carved it.
Yeah.
They
right. But
carved it. Yes, but they carved into
Right.
it. All they did was modify the rock. What about cave systems? Humans have lived in caves for hundreds of years. There are still humans who live in caves.
But a rock is just a blob. But when a person comes and carves it into a building, that proves what I'm saying. You are
No,
a
it doesn't.
living
No, it
statue.
doesn't. Humans go and live
You're
in
not-
caves, and they didn't modify the caves.
You're like a
Humans
living
go and
robot.
Humans go and live
All right.
in caves, and they didn't build the caves. I have one question. I have one further question.
Okay.
Suppose that a person who grows up in the highlands of New Guinea has never heard of God, doesn't kill anybody, doesn't steal anything, never lies. Does that person go to heaven or not? If not, why not?
Well, only God knows. I mean, I don't know how he's going to judge everybody. All I know is for myself. See, you worry about everybody else. You worry about everyone else. Why don't you worry about yourself, Tony?
So what you're saying is that ethical behavior is all that is necessary to get into heaven.
Tony, you worried about all the suffering animals and the guy.
What you just said
How
is
come you don't worry about
ethical behavior is all that is necessary to get into heaven.
I don't know how God's going to judge everybody. All I know is how he's going to judge me. I better get my act together. You know, I gotta confess my
you
sins.
Can start by being less of a rude dick.
All right. Hold on, guys. Look, I got to get through the super chats.
Don't need to worry about everybody else, but not himself and God.
All right. We'll get to that.
I worry about me. I worry about me and how I am in relation with God. Sin separates you from God.
All right.
Yes, you want to hope that God is very tolerant of dicks.
All right.
He keeps talking about those, man.
All right, so the Spirit 84 for $20. He says, I think human religion is too narrow-minded. As if God created everything, then we wouldn't be its focus point. With billions of stars and planets and millions of galaxies, is it far to limit God to carrying for just one?
That's the lie they want him to believe. There's not all these millions of billions of galaxies. He's right in the middle of the universe. The guy who said that, He's the center of the universe, and God watches him and loves that guy and wants him to repent.
Well, technically, we're all in the center of the universe.
Exactly.
Technically. Each person, even if a person goes to Mars, he's in the center. If a person goes to Alpha Centauri, he's in the center. If a person goes to the Andromeda Galaxy, he's in the center, or she's in the center. But that's for another discussion, Vlad. Fohammer 335, and this one's pro Vlad here. For $5 says go Vlad, beat PhD Snoozy. Wait, I'm rooting for the wrong guy. PhD Snoozy, how do you feel about that super chat there?
Well, if it came from anybody whose opinion was in any way valid,
I love it. You hear that, Fohammer? Invalid opinion. That's what it's all about. The Spirit 84. Once again, thank you so much, Spirit 84. I appreciate it. For $5, is Zeus come down like the hundreds of demigods that have been written in legend? Most are from Zeus, so I think he has come down. And I guess Vlad's not here to rebuke that. So, yeah. Oh, what do you think about the ancient gods, like the Greek and Roman gods?
The pagan. Oh, those are the fallen angels. Those are the demons. They are real, and a lot of people worship those. But those will lead you down the wrong road. That's what those are. Zeus and all that. All those Horus, Osiris. Those are the fallen angels. Pagan gods.
That's a cool story, bro. All right. The plot hole for $5. Vlad, you should be carrying Tony's books between classes. Tony, no Jessica G sex? With a question mark? All right, Hank, for $5. This is for you, Vlad. Can Vlad explain how the Japanese traveled to Hawaii to strike Pearl Harbor?
I heard they flew over there, right? They flew across the flat Earth. They got in their plane and they flew nice and straight, nice and straight, right over the flat Earth from Japan to Hawaii. They bonded and they flew back. It doesn't work on a ball. If a plane flies over a ball, it's going to end up in space after some time. The pilot's got to keep skipping the.
Absolutely untrue. Absolutely untrue.
How do you fly in a straight line if you want to avoid the curvature of Earth? That was one of my questions.
Well, a straight line on a surface when plotted on a three-dimensional surface, when plotted on a two-dimensional surface, will be curved.
So please allow.
Go ahead.
The thing is a straight line.
Hold on, Vlad.
Be quiet.
Go ahead,
You
Tony.
ask a question, and then as soon as I start answering it, you start prattling on, asking the same question over again. The lift characteristics of a wing are fixed by the geometry of the wing, by the configuration of the wing. So you can change the configuration of a plane wing to be more effective in a thicker atmosphere and less effective in a thinner atmosphere. Now, once you move out of the atmospheric range in which the pressure differential from above or below the wing will sustain it, will start dropping and it will go back into the pressure regime where it will start supplying lift. So actually, the very fact that the plane relies on a given air pressure differential between the bottom and the top of the wing dictates the altitude above Earth's surface at which the plane will fly. And you didn't understand a single word of what I just said. I don't care.
I did. Because what you're talking about, there's a miles and miles of air up and down that don't change that much in the pressure that you need for the plane to go straight for that long. What you're talking about would be like an extreme change of pressure within like 10 feet of air, with it up and between, like a 10-foot altitude, 10 feet of altitude. Okay, you would need an extreme change in air pressure within like a narrow spot of air for your thing to work. The plane is going to go for hundreds of miles in a straight line on the surface of, let's say, if it was a globe, the air pressure doesn't change that much.
I suggest you do the You do the numerical modeling to demonstrate your point, and I will tell you why you did it wrong.
And in 1 hour, it's 500. It's like 100 miles of curvature. Going 500 miles an hour in 1 hour, you got more than 100 miles of Earth curvature.
You're ignoring your previous era. You're ignoring your previous era and going on to another era.
Quiet.
All right, guys.
So you
all right.
ignore your previous era and you're going on with another. No, I'm not going to shut up just because you say so, right?
Hold on,
I'm
Vlad.
not
Hold on, Vlad. Hold on.
I'm not interested. I'm absolutely not interested in shutting up just because you're talking. Because you show no consideration of me whatsoever.
All right, all
you're
right.
just.
My
You're
answer
just.
proves you're wrong and you don't like that. That's why you
Stop being a dick. Stop being a dick and talking over other people. Yeah, try being a Christian once and show some consideration for and charity for the people around. For the people around you. I'll start being a Christian as soon as it makes any goddamn sense.
Great answer, Tony. All right, hold on. Let me get through the super chats. Okay, let me get through the super chats. Fuck YouTube. For $5, everybody, can we get an obligatory fuck YouTube in the chat? Moderators, be ready. If we don't know the real distances, as you said, Vlad, how do we calculate routes for planes and boats, and how much fuel they'll need to make their trips?
Who's we? Does he calculate it? The guy that said that? You don't get to calculate that stuff.
I do. I calculate that stuff, and I get it right. And so you saying, well, I don't, is just a lie. You're lying, Vlad. You're lying about me. You are bearing false witness about me.
All right.
That is a sin. You just sinned.
Where'd you? How come you don't go to church and work God? You spend all the time.
You didn't ask about flying a plane. You asked about calculating distances. I calculate distances on a sphere between particular mass elements and the and satellites. The work I do relies on me calculating the distance between ground elements and satellites in inertial space, and I do it routinely during the satellite's orbits. And you're saying that I'm not doing it. Well, you're wrong, and I can demonstrate that you're wrong. And you're lying. You're making a. That doesn't matter. That doesn't address the point that you just raised. The point that you just raised. The point that you were raising was about the accuracy of distance calculations, and your question was, has he done those distance calculations? Well, I have done those distance calculations. So, and what you're doing now is you are lying and you're accusing me of fraud in a public forum.
All right.
And no, I said you can't fly. I'd like to see you fly a plane to China. I bet you get lost.
I'm not a pilot.
Right.
All right.
Neither are you.
Guys, I need to keep going.
You don't know what's out there.
Vlad, I need to keep going. Hold on 1 second, all right? Esteban Ilabaca for 1,000 Chilean pesos, or clap money. Love it. Hey, Vlad, there's something wrong with that laser. That's gonna be forever. That's gonna be forever a classic moment, Vlad. A classic Vlad moment. I thought that was one of the funniest things you've ever said. Well, first off, you said it was my flaccid penis, and I was like, yo, that laser's like 12 inches long. Yeah, I'm good with that. And then you said something about, oh man, there's something wrong with that.
3
laser.
inches to me, but I wouldn't. If I knew.
Whatever.
I wouldn't have said that if I knew.
I'm hoping to usurp that with stop being a dick, Vlad.
All right. Off Lamero for $2 says, just turn your car sideways and drive up, Rad Vlad. I don't know what that was in reference to, but I don't think you can drive a car sideways like that. Simon Spencer for £2. Team, keep up the good work. Vlad is an idiot. Ding. He's a cool idiot though. Like it can get intense. It can get intense, but Vlad's all right, man.
Tell them who just said that.
Simon
said that?
Spencer, he said that.
Simon
You can
Spencer,
address him.
come over here, smart guy, and debate me on Team Show. Let's see how smart you are. I'll make a fool out of you, boy. Come debate me on his show,
You
Mr.
still got Irish Demon to go through first, though.
Yeah, he chickened out already. He knew better.
No. I told you, and he had his first period tonight. He's having an emotional moment with his mom right now. Just leave him alone. Let him enjoy it.
Spencer's got a period too. He's never going to be mad.
No. Pratt fat dicks everything. Not Pratt. God damn it, I called you Pratt. PhD Tony fat dicks everything. I'm sorry, Tony. I didn't mean to call you Pratt. I just looked up and saw the bald head, and I was like, oh shit, that's Pratt right there. Gary IOW. It's all right. You call me a skeleton all the time, so we're halfway even. Gary IOW for £2. Here's a beer for you. You'll need it after this. Yes, I need a bottle of whiskey.
Now we're talking.
Yes, I'm gonna get some whiskey, some Jameson.
Yeah, me too.
Monkey Cat.
The proper 12 Irish whiskey, man, not bad. You got to try that one.
I'll try it.
Killer stuff, man.
I think I've had proper Irish whiskey. I think I've had it.
Yeah, it's good, man.
All right.
Hey, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go, man.
Okay. Well, take care, man. Thank you for coming on. We have a few more super chats. You sure you don't want me to scan through and see if any of them are directed to you?
They're just calling me an idiot. I don't need to hear that.
But I give you the chance to respond. I don't say that you're an idiot and no
I haven't
longer
been here.
can talk.
I know, but if I wasn't sitting here for 4 hours, I might have the patience for that stuff.
That's understandable. Well, thank you, Vlad. We'll get you put together against Irish Demon here sometime soon. Maybe next weekend, maybe the following one.
Put him on. I'd like to slap him around a little.
Oh, he's ready. He said he's ready for the slapping. He just wasn't feeling very good today.
Couldn't perform, man. He couldn't get it up when he needed to. You know?
It happens. Monkey Cat Pat for $5 says, here's a donation to the Team Skeptic Art School. Well, I do appreciate you, Vlad, coming in. I do appreciate you, and if we can get you back in the future, that would be lovely. It's totally up to you. My forum's always open. I appreciate people who aren't pose and who aren't fucking absolutely horrendous in their, what they say. So I think you're not a Poe, obviously. I don't think you're a Poe. I think you believe everything you're saying. And, while we have had our differences in the past, I think you've done a good job of at least maintaining some kind of moral gray area that's acceptable to everybody. So thank you for that. And I appreciate that. Appreciate your good showing on my channel. And he's gone. All right, the Spirit 84 for $10. Fish already eat insects, birds, lizards, and more thinks that are found, and more thinks that are found more prevalent on land. I guess that means prevalent. More prevalent on land. Yes. Today you can find tree crabs that still need to return to the water to breathe. Yeah, there's fish right now that jump out of the water to catch things. There's mud skippers that can actually breathe air as they, go from one pond to the next. There's lots of these examples throughout our animal kingdom, actually. Jet Guitars for $10. I have better morals now than when I was a Christian. Thank you. Thinking that there is no afterlife makes life and other lives even more precious to me now, because they only have one short life, and that's it. Yeah, I was the same way. Growing up in high school, I was a pretty devout Christian, and I held some views when I was a child that I would have found repugnant as an adult. Especially like my views towards homosexuality. I never was like a hater or anything like that, but at the same time, I found it morally disgusting when I was a teenager. It wasn't until I got out of the house and away from all those fundamentalist Christians that kept telling me that I learned that they're just normal people just trying to love like me. So I was able to grow from that. And if I would have continued on in that fundamentalist belief system, there would have been no way I could have ever grown out of that way of thinking, which is horrible. It's a horrible way of thinking. Jet Guitars for $10. Oh, yeah, that was it right there. Thank you so much, Jet Guitars. I appreciate that. Virillion for $5 Aussie dollars. Does Vlad shave the sides of his head? I don't know, but I'll ask him next time. Bodie McBoatface for $6.66, New Zealand. I'm going to start saying all my New Zealand stuff like that. New Zealand, the Kiwi money. It's not even real money, by the way, guys. Team, put towards a Jameson dry with a twist of lime. You'll need it after this. In fact, it's too late to go to the liquor store, and I'm all out of Jameson. Drank that on my live stream the other night, my gaming stream. By the way, after this show, I'll be doing a gaming live stream. It'll probably take me about 11:30, about an hour from now. I got to grab something to eat real quick, but after about an hour from now, I'll be going live on the gaming channel for an after show. You guys can come over there and harass me. If you're a moderator out there like you, Skydiver Tanner, would you please go grab the link to my gaming channel and put it in the chat, please and thank you. Timothy Foster for $2. No question, just showing some channel love. I love that, man. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Really do, Timothy. Carrie Oliver, my main man, for $33.33 says, don't ever stop doing what you do. And I assume that was meant for Rad Vlad. You're in support of the flat earth, Carrie? I can't believe this. No, I know. It's just for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you're a goddamn beast. Love you, bro. Let's see. We have only a couple more. Commander Darklight, who will probably be dying with me tonight on my gaming channel, says, Vlad, you are trying to be a dick. Or does it just come naturally? I think it comes naturally. I think he just is an outspoken person. He just, he likes to argue. He likes to defend his points. And, a lot can be said about me being a dick too, but I accept the fact that I'm a dick. Commander Darklight again for another $14.99 Aussie. Said Vlad, the only reason Tony's answers make no sense to you is because you're simply not smart enough. Go back to school, buddy. Yeah, I agree. I think going back to school would do him a lot of benefit. Grumpy Old Man Joe for $5 Canadian. Vlad, you are being very prideful for a supposed Christian, and that pride is blinding you from the truth. Humble yourself, and you may learn something. Agreed. Small Time Art for $5. Just emailed you the link to the horrible boobs. Oh my God. Hold on. I can't show them on stream, obviously, but... Oh no, you did do it. All right, I'll go check this out afterwards, because for all that shit she was talking, she better not look like a troll. All right, thank you very much, Small Time Art. Big Time Art over here. You saw my pictures today, Tony? I was on point.
Yeah.
Robert Williams. Robert Williams for $1.99. What are the three norths used on maps? Tony, do you know what the three norths used on maps are?
Yeah, so there's magnetic north, there's true north. Well, I know two of them. There's an offset between the two, but normally they have to update the offset between the magnetic and the true north. Is there a rotational north as well as a geometric north?
No, I think the geometric north would be the rotational north, since it rotates on the axis.
Yeah, but the axis moves relative to what we agree on as zero latitude, zero longitude. So It's not always the case that the axis of rotation is coincident with what our coordinate system, what our reference frame suggests. So there's you'll have to tell me what the third one is.
Yeah, definitely. Robert Williams, if you're still out there, go ahead and let us know what that the third north is. Because I know you're right. I know about the two norths. There's the geometric north, or the geographic north, which is the point of rotation, and then there's the magnetic north, which has a drift to it daily, really. It doesn't just jump from one spot to the next over a year. It actually slightly moves each day. Let's see. Mary Millette for $5 Canadian. Vlad, is the flying spaghetti, or does the flying spaghetti monster exist? If not, prove it to me, because he is my god. Praise ramen. Praise ramen noodles. Oh, I ate some great spaghetti that was blessed to me by the all-knowing, all-powerful spaghetti god monster yesterday. Whew. Thank goodness for that jackass. All right, so let's see. We have. Oh, well, it jumped on me. The Spirit 84 for $5 more. Oh man, Spirit, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Fucking auto incorrect is a biatch. Lol. Yes, autocorrect gets me all the time. Huge horse for $2 Aussie. What's this large red thing on my left butt cheek? My left butt cheek. He said buttock, but I read it as butt cheek. That would be Flurpies. Flurpies. That's what that is. Be careful. All right, let's see if Robert Williams answered our questions in the chat. What the third north would be? Grid north. Grid north. Okay.
So I think that's the. I think that's the coordinate system.
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Okay, it's the direction northwards along the grid lines of a map projection. It's contrasted with true north, the direction of the North Pole, and magnetic north, the direction in which a compass needle points. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess that would mean that if the lines on a map that were heading north if that particular line on that particular map didn't run into the North Pole, then that would be considered grid north. I think that's what he's saying.
That's right.
What up, Andy?
Like I say, the point where they converge is different from the axis of rotation, which is off.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Yeah, fake north. That's right, Caddy. Now, I was going to ask him about this beautiful, wonderful seal wheel that's going on here and how this is possible without gravity, which, I couldn't understand the correlation until, how it was correlated. Of course, I knew about the atmosphere keeping the water from rising up, which is what that's saying, is that the atmospheric pressure pushing down is keeping it from rising up. But, all right. Well, that's it, Tony. That's it. We're done, bro. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Got anything you want to add before we get out of here?
I want to show off my Week in Horror merchandise here.
Oh my gosh!
You should check out JL's channel, and
it looks like JL. It looks like JL Warren wore that shirt before he gave it to you. It's all baggy on you and stuff.
Okay, well, I'm hopefully losing weight.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yes, because I'm a fat bastard. So, there was a point at the 3-hour mark where Vlad just, was deliberately trying to get under my skin. And,
I know. I was trying to keep him from doing it. But you guys were both talking over me, and I was like, I'm just gonna let them go at it instead of muting both of them. But good showing though. Always a great showing by you, and tonight was no different. It's one of the reasons why I love having you on my channel. Not to mention, I've been very open about, considering you as a mentor to me, really. I respect you, and I respect what you do for not just the community, but the morals that you hold. And I've come to you with several, just concerned about your opinion, concerned with your opinion about something I'm about to do and how this might look on me or whatnot. And I only do that because I respect your opinion. It's hard to find somebody that you absolutely respect and is going to give you not just good advice, but advice that's looking out for me and my channel. So thank you very, very much for that.
Well, thank you, because I actually appreciate the opportunity to hang around and do this, and you yourself are due a great deal of intellectual and moral respect for the way you handle things, and I think you can tell the quality of a person by the people they hang out with, and I feel it flatters me greatly that you let me hang out with you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, fucking, it's an anytime event. And you've hit me up before to say, hey, bring me on. I need to address this. And
Yeah,
anytime
yeah.
that you hit me up like that, it's always a hell yeah, come on, let's do it. Because, I have trouble sleeping and I need you to come on and talk me to sleep. Right now, I feel like going and taking a Tony nap right now. But
That's right.
other than that, Tony, it was, a pleasure to have you on. I think I'm going to end that with this right here. And let me double check something because I have actually, like, for whatever reason, my Streamlabs is not notifying me that I'm receiving donations. And a few donations came in. So let me read those not tonight, they didn't come in, but they've come in before. And I need to read them off. So give me 1 second while I verify my PayPal.
Okay.
Chase was one that I'm not gonna reveal your whole name in case you don't go by your name on YouTube. But Chase was one that sent me a couple of donations. Thank you very much, Chase. I appreciate that. And let me see what other ones came in. Yes, Michael Barrett for $5. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much. And Chase, and the reason why I say Michael Barrett is because I believe I've seen his name in the chat. And Miss, I think you've actually asked me not to say your name out loud before, so I'm not going to do that. But there was a donation for $10 as well from you, and thank you so much for that. Let me see. Yeah, two $10 donations from Chase as well. Chase, if you're listening out there, thank you so fucking much. Donations are awesome because YouTube doesn't take their 30% out, which is horrible. But anyway, as far as that goes, guys, we're done. We're fucking done. It's only been 4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours pretty much on the dot. Thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Saw lots of new faces out there today. While Tony and Vlad were having a chat, I was able to get in there and really interact with you guys in the chat. And that's awesome. So I appreciate everybody for coming out tonight. If you haven't hit like button yet, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have hit the like button and you have subscribed, then you only have one other thing to do, and that's go share this video to piss off a flat earther. That's on you. That's your homework for this week. Share this live stream. Go piss off a flat earther, evolutionist, young earth creationist, and the whole lot of crazies. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Y'all have a wonderful night. Let me get my chair set up so I can do this properly. I'm Team Skeptic. I did it wrong. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's how I do it. I'm like, all right, so time to go. Thank you for my patrons and channel members for supporting me in the way you do, and super chatters. It's with your support that I'm able to keep doing what I love to do. Calling out idiots on the internet. I'm Team Skeptic, and I'm out. All right, we are done.